absolutely no sense of time here, and and you're out here on the West Coast with me, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
So this is Mr. Bill Carroll and Demetrius Vergis, and as you can see, Demetrius he represents the city of the Detroit Lions. I'll put it like that, and
the whole city. You got it right.
The whole city, okay. The whole city, okay. And you'll see. We're having trouble with Bill tonight. Bill's going in and out on us, but we'll see. Bill, make sure your volume's up. But you'll see Demetrius has a picture of the greatest there in the background. So
yes.
So kind of tell them, surprisingly, about your background in MMA and how you got into it.
Yeah. So I started out doing Krav Maga, and it was just for self-defense. And it was my husband at the time, who was so convinced that if I didn't know self-defense, I was going to end up getting raped or something like that. I don't know. He had this like catastrophic imagination, like the worst thing was possibly happen if I didn't know how to defend myself, which I think it's a good idea, right? For everyone to know how to defend themselves, especially women. So I studied Krav Maga for about 2 years. And the whole time I did it, I just really loved just punching and kicking. Like I just didn't really, I didn't care about disarming. I mean, we learned how to take guns away from people and knives and like, chokes. And I was like, yeah, whatever, whatever. But as soon as I could start like hitting the bag or just really feeling the sensation of the force of my body on something else, I don't know, man. I think something about that kind of violence, kind of. I don't. Do you hear that reverb?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do here.
Bill.
Try and mute. Bill.
Okay.
Okay. Hello.
Yep. Much better.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. But like even before I had done any of that, I just always thought of myself as being kind of like a pacifist. Like I just wasn't into violence. I didn't think it was a great thing to be violent. But then as soon as I did it, it felt really great. And then I started realizing there's just something really primal and just psychologically satisfying about being able to, this is going to sound wrong, to be able I want to say hurt somebody else, but that's not what I want to do. Like, that's not the goal, right?
Kind of sounds like that's what you're doing.
I know. But
and this is the sports crib, so it's okay.
I know, but it just, you guys get it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay. So then
you're talking to at least 2 military men here, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right. You wouldn't be asking me this if you didn't already kind of. So, yeah, and also at the time, that was when the UFC started to really become something. It was starting to really be something, and the first Ultimate Fighter was being aired, and this was back when Forrest Griffith was like a big deal, and and Pride was like the big fighting, organization, and the UFC was kind of up and coming in the States. And so my ex-husband was totally into that, and I just kept watching it, and I was just so fascinated. And then I saw some females fight in Muay Thai on some show. I don't remember what it was. And I just remember thinking, I could do that. Like, I'm not afraid of getting hurt. I'm not afraid of getting punched in the face. And I really kind of feel like I would like punching somebody else in the face. So I just checked out, online and looked at some of the gyms that were around my neighborhood. And as it happens, the closest MMA gym to where I lived was AMC, which is Matt Hume's gym. And Matt Hume's trained, the current champion out of there is Demetrius Johnson, like Mighty Mouse. And so I got to be on his fight team when he was just an amateur and starting out. And a lot of fighters came through there. I got to spar with Matt Brown. God, I don't remember. God, my brain is just so fried now. But Spencer Fisher went through there. Chris Lieben was through there. Tim Bosch went through there. Rich Franklin was there. I can't believe I forgot that. Rich Franklin taught me how to do a triangle choke, which was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. If you're a female and you believe that Rich Franklin's a good-looking guy, then that would be a really exciting moment for you to do a triangle choke with Rich Franklin. So that's how I got into it. And then I eventually phased out of doing the ground game and just focused on Muay Thai and ended up just competing an amateur in Muay Thai. That's such a drawn-out story, and half of it's not even interesting, but that was the story.
It's very interesting. Now you want to tell them about the book that you wrote, the reason why I put you on the other show?
Yeah, so totally related. It is a book that I wrote with my friend Tony Sablon on investing and making the right investment decisions. So right now I'm I'm an expert on decision making, and I've spent like the last 20 years in graduate school and also in business just studying how people make decisions. And Tony and I wrote a book about how to make decisions for investing. And it's really just aimed at not, getting rich quick or the rich guys. It's like the everyday person's like investment guide. So that's that.
So now you can tell us how you got from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
I mean, was that kind of like your way of, getting rid of the stress in your other job? Is that what you kind of use it as a stress reliever?
You mean like just doing martial arts?
Yes.
Yes. And since COVID, I haven't really done much of that, and also work has been really kind of intense. But for the most part, when I have that in my life, I feel more level. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just kind of feel like that edginess that I generally kind of feel that comes with stress, anxiety, just worrying. It kind of centers me a little bit. It kind of makes it all go away. And there's a lot of flow. I don't know if you guys have done martial arts but if you've experienced, you have. So like when you're doing it, like you cannot focus on anything else,
right,
because you will get hurt. And so that intense focus on that one thing kind of just phases out everything else. And then also you're just so physically tired because it's so physically demanding that it really just is a nice break from everything else. It just kind of does level me out. I don't know, Bill, do you feel level? Did you feel level when you did it? How did that make, I don't want to be the only one talking. I want to know what you guys have experienced too.
Well, it's funny you should mention, because I'm also a very calm and nurturing person, but I very much enjoyed, I was a wrestler both in high school and in college.
Oh, nice.
And I very much enjoyed, you mentioned the exhaustion, and there's exhaustion that's just exhausting and you don't feel anything other than just you're beaten and you're exhausted. But the exhaustion that comes from having exerted yourself to get better at something, to master something, is exhilarating, right? Like I loved that kind of feeling. Like when you get through, like the first time you get through a 12-minute drill, right? 12 minutes of continuous grappling, 12 minutes. I don't think people who've never wrestled understand what I mean when I say 12 minutes. It doesn't sound that bad. I would rather run for 80 minutes than to wrestle for 12.
That's true.
I don't think people understand what it takes out of you to go against somebody, especially if they're any good at all, who is essentially, since you're matched up based on weight class, basically you, right? You're going against someone who sometimes better than you, sometimes not as good as you, but essentially you. They've been coached by the same coaches, and they're probably close to you in physical ability unless you're exceptional, and I was not. I promise you that. So those last couple of minutes of a 12-minute drill teach you a lot about yourself and how much you enjoy the sport you say you want to participate, in which you like to participate. And then I also, though not nearly as well or as long, also was a Wing Chun practitioner. Had a couple of different teachers, and my original Sifu was the late great Duncan Leung. And for people who know that name, he was one of those 5 young men who grew up with, the man that we know and hear as Bruce Lee. They were friends growing up, and he had lots of really funny stories about what a little punk Bruce was when he was growing up, because he was like a cocky little dude. He later became more philosophical, but he was he's a child star, right? And like many child stars, he was a child of privilege and kind of could be kind of a pest. Used to pick fights and stuff like that because he wanted to test out his skills. He later became, much more your sort of classic Zen approach to, but not at 15.
Yeah. I think, Bill, there's a lot of ego in the martial arts that people don't necessarily talk about. And I think there's ego like in having to like posture and like have people think that you're a tough guy, but also a lot of fragility in that ego. Like if you do get knocked around by somebody you didn't like some scrawny, technically really great fighter, it does really kind of shatter a lot of guys in the gym. And you see these really big beefy guys with lots of tattoos and they're just like this, they're this small inside, it's just so and there's no talking about it. There's no like, hey, did your dad love you enough? Like, why are you so insecure? You know what I mean? Like, there's none of that. It's just this constant posturing. I think that's one of the reasons why I felt like I had to phase out of that world, because I wanted to get more real with myself. And I wanted to like, I didn't want to continue living a life where I was just shaking it off all the time and, not letting the pain get to me, whether it was physical or emotional. I kind of wanted to be like, oh man, yeah, this kind of hurts. And I just want to kind of go in the corner and just cry and have that be okay.
Right.
Yeah. Demetrius, you've been kind of quiet there. A lot of head nodding and
totally enjoying it. So
Demetrius was a baseball player. That's why he's
exactly. I do, but to the point. Well, to Bill's point correctly, my game in terms of being a player was baseball. And as a taller, longer guy, some of the activities I would just tear a muscle just in stretching. I would tear. I've torn pretty much everything, ruptured Achilles, and so later in life, because I abused my body athletically in my 20s and teens between baseball and basketball and different things, I was harsh. And so now it is about flexibility. It is yoga. It is Zen. It is some of that real focus stuff of. It's the same concept you talked about, which is like the pressures of every day. You need time somewhere to sit down and say, okay, breathe. For me, it's like stretching, breathing, and the focus, because it's about concentration, right? Yeah. And the concentration took me years to, I'm not even comfortable saying I've mastered it. I'm still working on it. Just the ability to focus. And sometimes it's beneficial to me because with what I do for a living, I have the ability to be incredibly focused for short periods of time and be incredibly productive, because that is this sort of, okay, get into my space. And so I tell people all the time, I'm more productive in 5 hours than most people are in 8. People are walking around getting coffee, chit chatting, doing all, I'm grinding. Right. And when I'm in that zone, the quality of my work is good. In terms of physical, it is still the same concept, that piece, that time, that 20, 30 minutes where I'm just sitting, stretching usually my quads or my hamstrings, because I'm 6'4", but I'm mostly leg. And it's helpful. I feel better when I get up and I walk and my mind is clear. So it's the same thing. I would love to be able to go into a gym and punch a heavy bag, but I would break my brittle little finger, long brittle fingers. I would break both. I've broken. You can probably tell they've been broken multiple.
Oh, you have long fingers.
And so they're brittle. They break easily, and I pull things easily. And so I prayed many times, God, give me stronger muscle tone. And he pretty much says, sit down and read a book. So I did that instead.
It sounds like your hands are so big. You could have been like a championship swimmer. You realize that? Like you just have like this flipper hand.
You would think. You would think.
Yep.
He's the right height. That's my
Yeah.
boy. That's Mike's height, isn't it? If that's
Phelps.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
about his height.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know if you got a bong in the house, but I mean, that's cribbing.
No,
That's
that's cribbing after dark. It's not 9 o'clock central. At 9 o'clock central, we call it cribbing after dark. Everything goes.
Yeah.
Everything goes after 9. You can say whatever you want. But right now, we're supposed to be good. I'm not sure why.
So no
It was
bong
made up.
now. No bong right now. But at
No
9
bong.
p.m.,
Right, it's
suddenly
not 9
a bong
o'clock
will appear in your house.
It's only 8:30. It's 8:18 north of Chicago. So no
Well,
bong.
I'm in Seattle. It's 6:18, and it's always time.
Yeah, true. Right.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, yes, of course.
Right. Seattle, you do whatever.
Yeah, that's why I say we're both on the West Coast. She's in,
Right.
I'm in
Yeah.
San Diego. She's up here, but it was just amazing. I thought your story was about how you got into combat sports because, frankly, and I don't. Am I allowed to say it would be sexist at this time? You just don't look like a lady that would be involved.
She already said she likes to
No, I
punch
know.
people, James.
I
What's
know. It's funny because when I look
Well,
at my
hey,
when I look at my own pictures of fighting back then, I even look at myself and I'm like, I don't even look that tough. Like, I don't look like I could never have the 6-pack abs. I was always kind of soft, I just never really, I never looked like Ronda Rousey.
It's really that internal desire to punch people. That's really what it is. Like early on, you established, I think I just like punching people.
You have to want to hurt somebody.
Exactly. It's something inside.
I think also what I really loved about training with Matt Hume, and I feel so lucky to train with Matt Hume, is that with him, it wasn't about that. He didn't care if you looked physically the part. In fact, some of his favorite fighters in the gym were the scrawnier guys that were smart. Like he was just all about using your brain, using trickery or setting up punches, doing the unexpected, just getting people off their games, shaking people up. And then his protege, his name at the gym, Trevor Jackson, he's like one of probably the best boxing coaches around. And this is coming from really great boxing coaches who watched him train. It's the same thing. It's about being smart. It's about using your head and not being all about the ego, even though it's so much an ego-driven game. And I think, I don't want to brag or anything, but I think I was a lot smarter than a lot of people who were preoccupied with being tough and strong and big. And I just was always at the right place at the right time. And I always used tricks that Matt taught me and Trevor taught me. And sometimes that's how that's how Ali won a lot of his fights. That's just how you win. You just play a long strategic game.
Absolutely.
And maybe I didn't look that, I don't look that tough, but yeah, I'm not that dumb.
Exactly.
Bill kind of sounds like that little scrawny guy that was in hand-to-hand combat training in Ranger School, right? The little guy
It's funny. The last thing we did at the end of our hand-to-hand combat training was King of the Hill. Did you guys do that too? Oh, you know what I'm talking about. And the guy who won was a specialist named Sadler, who was 5'3" and 140 pounds. But no one could get him off his feet. He was extremely quick, and pound for pound, he was like a little pit bull. Pound for pound, one of the strongest human beings I've ever run across in my life was Specialist Sadler. He won King of the Hill. We had guys in there who were 230-something pounds. They couldn't do anything with him.
Wow.
I'm sure to her point, he was probably smart, and his dad probably loved him. So that helps. That always helps.
I definitely think the gym is the martial arts gym is a place to work out your daddy issues. You're a man or a woman.
Right.
Through your daddy issues. Yeah.
So, what do you think about this current crop that we're watching? We got a big fight. Conor McGregor is coming back. It's going to have a rematch here. How do you think Dana White has managed, the UFC since you've seen it from its beginnings? What's kind of your thought on that? The way the sport has evolved.
I don't watch UFC anymore because of the way the sport has evolved. Yeah. I think that the spirit of martial arts and the way that I learned what it meant and what it was about. It was, it's not about being a star or the money. Like every time one of Matt Hume's fighters would win a fight, like he'd be in the locker room after the fight telling them what they did wrong. Like, because it's a learning opportunity. It's about growing. It's about learning. Like, it's about being a better fighter, a better person. The accolades and the rewards and all of that, the women, the money, all that stuff. I think that's what the UFC is like thrives on now. That image of, you know, Conor McGregor in his fancy suit and throwing diamonds around, whatever, you know. It just doesn't appeal to me anymore. And I think also with the women who started out in the UFC, there were a lot of excellent female fighters at the UFC that Dana White wouldn't even consider because they didn't have sex appeal. And as soon as, you know, Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey had a little sex appeal, he was like, yeah, let's put these women on and put them in these tight bras. And that's not martial arts to me. You know, that's not what it's meant to be about. So I don't really watch it anymore. I'll watch boxing once in a while because for some reason that boxing still feels like the traditional spirit of boxing hasn't gone, it hasn't left. Is unsavory some parts of it might even be sometimes. It's still the tradition of boxing, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I do a boxing show on Tuesday with K9 Bundage, so that kind of tells you. So, you know, I kind of cover the gambit from boxing to sports here. So, Demetrius, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there was a shift that at some point in time, instead of all the things that martial arts began about, which she's already touched on quite a bit, some of the things about pushing yourself and really positive, pure things, it became about money, right? It became a business. And early on, Dana was promoting the sport. He was trying to grow the sport, the popularity of the sport, which in my mind was for the athletes. And then it became about crafting stars, which was about money and TV deals and that kind of thing. And that's exactly when I was always a boxing guy anyway, not just because of the guy on my shoulder, but in general. You know, my favorite boxers are like not the most popular. There's a guy from my hometown of Flint, Michigan named Chris Bird. Love Chris Bird. Got to know him a little bit personally. He was a defensive fighter. Chris Bird probably couldn't hurt me. But he was such a great defensive fighter. Pernell Whitaker. And these are the guys I loved, right?
Yeah. Carissa is from Flint too, right?
Exactly. Yes, Carissa. Right. Yeah. This is like, so I'm a boxing person who likes the MMA tangentially. I like certain guys. I lived in Milwaukee for a while, got to know a guy named Ray Pettis. His younger brother Sergio is in Bellator. He's fantastic. So I'll watch Sergio and a few others, but boxing is the sport that I love.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's because boxing is technique and it's talent and it's smarts. The smartest guy, the most disciplined guy, the guy who puts in the work, understands both studying his opponent and the work in the gym and running on the road. Those are the guys that win. Some guys are extremely gifted, like Mike Tyson. But when he lost his intellect, when he approached the fight without being true to the sport, went to Tokyo and he got his block knocked off, right? That's what happens. And even Ali will say the same thing.
Yeah.
Where if they don't steal likely the best 3.5 years of his career, I already don't have a conversation. I've talked about it. I don't like people using the word GOAT for anybody else.
Yeah.
Flat out. There's one GOAT ever. And that's that dude. So if he would have had those 3 years, imagine how we would talk about him. And so to me, boxing is it's still a pure, and you're right, they're savory characters. And when the money gets too big, you know, there are people who like Don King. I don't. I don't know that he did anything good for the sport. So he got rich off the backs of a lot of other people.
And he is from Cleveland. Remember,
exactly.
He is from
probably
Cleveland.
a Browns fan. He's probably a Browns fan. But I mean, this simple stuff like when these guys are young coming up in the sport, you should get them financial counseling. They should understand how to manage their money. Not, hey, I will manage your money for you. Hey, you're taking a class on how you need to understand how stocks work, how to build generational wealth so that you don't go from one day having a $40 million mansion to shilling stuff in Vegas, right? That's how you care for people and help them become better people. Mm-hmm. And that part of that sport was always difficult for me to handle, even from when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
I love boxing. I think that my feeling about Dana White, it's not important. I don't think he is good for that sport. He's probably good for which Fertitta Tillman. I think it's one of the Fertitta brothers. He's good for Fertitta's bottom line. I don't know that he's good for that sport long term. So
Yeah.
Speaking of boxing, Chris Bird lives out here in San Diego. Also, he trains a few fighters out here. And I also have a good relationship with his cousin, who was heavyweight champion Layman Brewster. So
Chris Bird is one of the nicest people you ever meet, by the way. Boxer or non-boxer, he's genuinely one of the nicest people you ever meet. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, and I mean, especially because he's an imposing figure, and you kind of think twice about approaching him. You hope that he's a good guy if you approach him, boxing. I have a few things with boxing, especially Don King. Don King's the only promoter that sold a fighter 120% of himself, but that's another. So. Bill, your thoughts on UFC and boxing, or however you want to approach it?
When UFC came about was when I was probably the most involved in martial arts. I was taking, Wing Chun at the time. I was very excited about. Originally, it was supposed to be a test, right? I saw UFC 1. I had a friend who actually trained somebody for one of this subsequent UFCs, and it was really a laboratory, right? To see, because you had boxers, you had wrestlers, you had Muay Thai, you had judo, it was all just a laboratory, and you could see a lot of the people didn't understand how to train, especially like cardio wise. So the earliest, and I saw the first few. I have them all, the first ones somewhere. In fact, on VHS cassette, because I'm a
Stop dating us. Right. You're supposed to go DVD. You're supposed to go DVD on that, man.
At some point, I probably should make that move, but I have those suckers on UFC, baby. Those first few UFCs on VHS. But and I saw the rise of Horion and Hoist and the Team Gracie and all that. And for me, and I was a big Uriah Faber guy. That was my guy. Like, that was the guy I followed his career from the very beginning until he retired about 5 years ago. And I sort of felt like the end of his career was the end of me feeling like the people I wanted to watch were in the sport. And the talent level, don't get me wrong, is as good and maybe better than it's ever been. But the commitment to developing an understanding of, because remember, at one point it was a bunch of different styles. Now everybody's, some people are a little more stand up, some people are a little more on the ground, but everybody's doing kind of the same thing, or a version of the same thing, which it used to be like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people were like, everyone was watching them, but they weren't all doing it. They were all trying to understand, like, why are they winning all the time? And now everybody's got some of that. Everybody's got some BJJ in what they do, even if they were originally a boxer or they were originally a wrestler or whatever it is. Everyone's sort of absorbed. Everyone's about 40% Gracie now. You know what I mean? If you look at their approach to their fights. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's no longer that great contrast of styles that I looked for in the early UFC.
Right.
And once again, the Fertittas and Dana White, and I'm no expert on what they do and why they do it, but what they have done is they've certainly done a lot in terms of growing and cross-promoting and things like that. But they've definitely, in my opinion, forced out everything that doesn't conform to a certain template, I guess is a good way to put it. Yeah. And so when that happened, like I said, for me, the Petri dish was what made it interesting. All these different sort of things. And now it's all kind of, everyone has to have like a tribal tattoo. Like, it seems like if you don't have one of those, you can't be in UFC nowadays, right? Where's your tattoo? It's got it right here on the bicep.
White guy from what tribe? Right.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. But I'm half kidding when I say that, but only half kidding. Like, it seems like there's this. It's almost like you get a starter kit, right? Here's your UFC starter kit.
That's true.
You know, I don't know. Hey, shave the sides of your head, but let this part grow, and I don't know. I'm probably just the old guy. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just a fuddy duddy. But I remember when I saw a lot of different kind of fighters, and it made it exciting. And now they're all different versions of the same fighter.
Yeah.
I had nothing. Bill's already established himself as the old guy, so it's no need for me.
I was wondering if you were just going to let that go.
hey, gladly if he want,
if he wants to take it, he can have it.
Connor left. I'm good. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just gonna say, I think part of I thought the first few UFC it was ultimate fighting. That's what we called it back then, right? We didn't call it. It was like ultimate fighting because there were no rules and it would go on forever and you could go in there and do whatever worked. And it was all about, he's a street brawler, he's a taekwondo expert. Okay, which one's gonna win? And it wasn't the fighter against the fighter. It was boxing versus karate. It was jujitsu.
Technique against technique.
It was style or tradition or school versus school. And I think what ended up happening is that, because the Gracies dominated and BJJ became so dominant, I think everybody started realizing that if we're going to win these competitions, we got to start doing some of the things that work. And eventually it all just sort of, okay, well, you've got to have some stand up. And so boxing, kickboxing, and some Muay Thai, and you got to have some ground and some BJJ. And it just kind of that became the formula for winning against every other type of school or tradition or whatever. And I think to some extent, that's why now there's one style of fighting. But that does not explain why there's a template for how these guys or these fighters should look, how they should talk, what tattoos, why can't
how they behave in general.
Right. Why can't a woman who looks like me fight in the UFC? Because I'm not going to take I'm not going to take my clothes off, and I'm not going to be on the cover of Maxim magazine, and I'm not going to promote the sport to the audience who is like a bunch of 20-something-year-old horny guys, right? So
you have to,
except the ones that like to get punched in the face.
Right.
You're not going to marry a porn star? I mean,
I'm not.
Right.
I mean, that dream sailed long ago.
Great answer.
Martial arts was not supposed to be about that. And I remember just coming from a Krav Maga tradition, it's even, and just setting aside the association with the Israeli military or all that. I mean, it is designed to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It's a self-defense program, or I don't know. I don't know why my brain's not working very well today. I can't come with the right word, but it's a system to protect you, your family, and other people who are too weak to protect themselves. He is not like that.
Nika, I want you to know that you are probably the closest one that we've tried to keep a schedule with here. But so would you like to give us your final thoughts for the evening? And
take all the time you want. Don't bite. There is no time.
Are you trying to get rid of me, James?
No, you can stay as long as you want.
You can stay as long as you want. We're going to be talking NFL. We're going to be talking basketball.
Oh man, I don't know anything about that.
He tries to be a good host. Bill and I ignore it every single week. I don't know why he keeps trying, but
well, I can't talk NFL. I can't talk. I don't know much about. I don't follow other sports. I can't talk about that stuff. So, I mean, I could just sit here quietly and listen, or I could just.
Well, hey, it's up to you. It's your prerogative, as the old guys might say. Bill, you can kind of. Is that how it goes? I have to ask Bill now because he's the authority on being old. So,
I have a question. I have a question that's going to delay my leaving.
Okay.
Excellent.
What do you think it would take for the sport of mixed martial arts to be classy again? Or if it ever was classy, but what would it take for the sport to be classy And I think that, like, when I think about ONE FC, I see that as a potential model for how that could be.
Yeah.
But it's still hyped up as a media content kind of like.
Yep.
It's
Class doesn't sell.
What's that?
Class does not sell.
Right, and that's the answer. That take money out of it,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous to say. If you brought some degree of purity back to it, where achievement is measured by literal accomplishment, like right now, Conor McGregor is the biggest draw in that sport because he probably commands the most money in that sport, and it's all rooted in disgusting. Well, disgusting might be harsh. No, it's not.
Unclassy. He's not classy.
No, he's the very opposite. He's the opposite of that. I mean, obviously, people aren't going to turn into PBS, I guess, to watch MMA. But
that's true.
I mean, Dana White clearly would have to not be the face anymore, right? You can't have. I mean, no offense to Dana White, he's done great things in preserving. I mean, as we all know, UFC was in big trouble when Dana White rode onto the scene, and so he kept it, first of all, just from failing financially. So he deserves credit for that. But he's not, when you say classy, Dana White's not what pops to my mind next when you bring up the word classy. So that's one thing.
Strip club and cocaine pops to my mind.
See,
right.
Vince McMahon should also pop
to some extent, right? To some extent, I mean, clearly he's been influenced by watching people like that.
Right.
And the Fertittas, once again, are not exactly, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not patrons of the arts exactly either. So when you have leadership and management that, kind of look like they would be comfortable living in tracksuits the rest of their lives, then you aren't going to, it's not going to be easy to reframe this sport. It would take an infusion of money from somebody who isn't that interested in making their money back, as Demetrius pointed out. And that's hard to find. Hey, would you like to invest but also not get your money back?
Right.
Maybe ever, but definitely not soon. That's not usually how you hook investors. And then the second thing would be you'd have to bring in a respected individual who says, we're not trying to get you on the cover of Maxim. We're not trying to get you an interview in Playboy. We're not trying to, our focus is not that. We're not trying to help you sell your whiskey, your line of bikinis, your whatever, all that stuff, right? We are trying to make you a respected leader in mixed martial arts. And we're going to try to bring young people into this in such a way that they're not so much interested in how their hair looks and if it's the right tattoo, but how can I develop as a person as well as an athlete, as a martial artist simultaneously? Yeah. Is it impossible? Nothing's impossible. Will it be extremely difficult? Well, obviously, because you've got to balance, like I said, bringing in this infusion of capital that's willing to probably lose money for a while, right? Because your demaximization, I'm trying to get the word maxim and max. I'm trying to make it work. Some clever wordplay almost happened and then short circuited.
It was an accident, but it almost happened.
Well, I was trying to do it on purpose, and that's why I botched it. I could have let it happen naturally, but you can't maximize the sport anymore the way it's been done, right? Because right now you're appealing to the truck nuts crowd, right? And so if you're going to no longer pitch your sport at people who want to hang testicles on their vehicle, you're going to have to initially lose money, right? Yeah. Because the one thing that people know about the UFC consumer is that they drink beer, they drive trucks, they probably buy guns, and I mean, I'm just saying, but it's advertisers are looking for that. That's who you want to sell your beer and your truck to, right? Dodge Ram loves the person I'm describing. describing, because that person's going to buy a new Dodge Ram, whether they need it or not. When you switch it up, you're going to lose money initially because you have to find a different audience who either were watching like me initially and then got disenchanted and then they're going to bring me back, right? Or new people who weren't even interested before because they were turned off by sexism and Dana White and all the other stuff that had been rife, sometimes obviously and sometimes more subtly throughout the sport, and don't care about the sex appeal, right? Because you're going to lose a bunch of, once again, the Maxim buyers and the truck nutters you're going to lose them when you make this change. So it's not impossible to be tough.
Demetrius, you see what happens when you get frozen, man. I don't know. Do you have any? Did Bill leave anything for you?
No, Bill, you know how this works. Following Bill is it is what it is. He's gonna take all the smoke, leave nothing for me. But I will say that he it's not hard, it's just unlikely because the old business axiom applies. Metrics drive behavior. If the Fertittas have a bottom line metric to Dana White, this never works because everything Bill said is right. He knows who his demo is, who they are. He knows what they like, and he doesn't care about people like me. He doesn't care about people like three of us, I would say, because we enjoy the sport from I keep using the word purist standpoint.
It is, yeah.
And it doesn't sell because everything Bill said. So I think it's not difficult, but it's highly unlikely. It's not hard to do. If they just said, hey, we want to promote the sport, we want to elevate the standard of the sport, you could do more work in communities. You could require your athletes to live to a standard, as odd as that sounds, just be decent. Like you could just suspend certain behaviors and it would deter certain things, right? You could just have a zero tolerance policy on any number of things. And then you get a different kind of athlete, they behave differently, and the sport becomes the draw, not the person. And that's really what it is. That when the sport's the draw, that's better. Then that's what the NFL has going. The NFL, the game is the draw. Yep. I root for sweaters. The minute a guy leaves Detroit, I don't care what he does. I root for my team because it's about the team. No one guy. There's a few guys that are exceptions, but the NFL has figured this out, and that's why they print money.
It's also a team sport, though, Demetrius. It's also a team sport.
That's true.
Well,
anyway,
you all meant. Now I have a question for you since you didn't want to go. See, now you got to ask another. So
I guess after dark,
you guys talk about mixed martial arts and you talk about boxing. Well, we've seen that in order for her to make the real money, Clarissa Shields is now talking about going over to the US mixed martial arts or MMA. Dana White and company. Now, Clarissa is a two-time world champ. She's been known as very classy in the world of boxing. How much does this change her and how fans look at her?
Can I take it first? Since she's from Flint, Michigan? Okay. Go ahead. No,
Nika.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm a little biased because I think she's amazing. And so I almost, if she ends up losing her class in the UFC, I would probably give her a pass anyway. Like I just, for some reason, and I don't know much about her, but I know that, she doesn't come from a privileged place. She had to fight for everything she's got, and she's fought hard, and she's amazing. And I guess I just, it's like, okay, well, let her make some money here. Like if this is what she wants to do, I would give her a pass because I don't know. I guess I just want to believe that in her heart, she's not going to change, but maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's completely,
you're right.
Maybe I've got like far eyes, like, oh, perfect, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. This is the sports crib. It's like, hey, if that's what you think, cool. But Demetrius?
I think she's absolutely right. And the reason is the one exception to all this is when you're the best. When you're really good, you don't have to compromise. When you're better than everybody else, you don't have to conform. you don't have to buckle to the ridiculous demands of Dana White. And she won't. And I'm biased. Yeah, I'm from Flint, Michigan, so is she. But she's really, really good.
Yeah.
And when you're good, you don't have to compromise. She doesn't need to flash and all that. She's gonna win. She's gonna win. And that will be the thing. When you're better than everybody else, you don't have to compromise. And she won't.
Yeah.
Lazarus, you have the final thought there.
Well, thank you, son. The concerning thing for me isn't so much that she might lose her class or cachet or anything like that. The concerning thing for me is that there's no more money fights for her in her actual sport.
Yeah.
That's, to me, the more concerning thing, is that she should be able to be so great at the thing she's great at, and we should just be able to enjoy her being great at that, and her not have to go fishing, basically, to keep momentum in her career. And unfortunately, because she's so dominant, and it doesn't look like, as far as I know, there's anybody who's going to come close to her in boxing. I mean, it seems like there's a pretty sizable gap between Miss Shields and everybody else. And that, I guess that's the thing that concerns me, is that there's such a talent gap in her actual sport, at least so far. And once again, who knows? There could be somebody out there who is amazing I just don't know about. Somewhere, pounding a heavy bag right now that I just haven't seen yet. And I hope that, in fact, that's the case. That there's some challenger on the horizon I'm just not aware of. But she doesn't seem to think that, right? She doesn't seem to believe that there's somebody coming that's going to give her juice and a rivalry and stuff like that. And that saddens me a little bit. So I'm not so much concerned about what will or won't happen if this even happens, if she does make that move and it actually happens. Because remember, we've heard this about lots of boxers. And it rarely actually plays out, that they actually truly commit to becoming a mixed martial artist. Usually when boxers make that move, they're fair to middling boxers, who aren't making the big money anyway. And so it's an opportunity for them. And they can retool fairly quickly. Some of them can retool very quickly. But if you're at the top of your game, the top of your sport, the pinnacle of your sport, it like I said, I'm a little depressed if that's the best move for her out there, is to leave the sport that she is in essence the queen of.
Yeah. But I think we've seen it in boxing though. Like Chris Bird, another guy from Flint, fought in the Olympics as a middleweight. He fought at 160. There was nobody there at 160, so he went up to like 175 or whatever cruiserweight is, cleaned up the cruiserweight division, and the promoter said, sorry, bro, you got to put on 20 more pounds and go fight Lennox Lewis. You got to go fight 230 pounders because there's no money in the cruiserweight division because you're better than everybody else. So he put on another 25 pounds, went up and won the heavyweight championship, right? They always, and you could call it chasing the money, but it's what they love to do. And I agree with you. I wish there was somebody there, but the other side of that is she's just better than everybody else. I mean, how bad can I feel for her for saying you're simply the best at what you do, so much so that there's nobody there for you to make money with?
Yeah,
kind of sad, but not that sad.
Yeah, she needs a Joni Frazier. That's what she needs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nika, we're gonna give you another shot here now. Do you have any social media? You can tell people about your book.
Where do you find it?
So what I do these days is, like I said, I help people make better decisions through like books and blogs and podcast interviews like this, even though I probably didn't help anybody make a good decision today. But you can find me at my website is yournextdecision.com. And I encourage everyone to subscribe because I send letters to people that I don't post on the website that just are stories from my life. They're stories from people's lives that help them make better choices.
Excellent.
Well, as I said, you might get the SPORTSKRIB Network tour here. You've been on the political show, the sports show, so we might have to get you on the boxing show too.
Can I? James, I love being on your show. It doesn't even feel like I'm on a show. I just feel like I'm hanging out with friends and chatting.
Exactly.
I really like it.
It was a pleasure having you too.
Pleasure meeting you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Right.
Yes. And I do look forward to checking out her stuff. So I looked at her LinkedIn page, and man, she's for real.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking,
hang out with chuckleheads like us.
I was thinking, I should have wore a better shirt. That was excellent, though. That was good stuff.
Yeah, I try to diversify a little bit, man. But she was a very interesting lady, like I said. And I was, I actually found her on, I think it might have been podcast or Matchmaker, one of those particular sites. But I originally got her on when I was talking about decision making and different aspects of politics. And then found out her MMA background, and she actually asked to come and meet you guys. So I didn't really tell her that you were all thugs, but so I made sure to invite her on at the beginning rather than cribbing after dark. Even though I think we might have threw a few up in there anyway. But
well, she started the whole thing off by saying, I realized I really like to punch people. Like, damn, we're after dark already. She's jumping right in. No, that was good stuff, though. I like where she broke it down, the mental aspect of it.
Well, guys, it seems like we're having the Olympics last week. I think we talked about the basketball team, but now we're talking about Olympics with no spectators. What are your thoughts? I mean, now, hey, you can call it what what about the revenue as far as ads, as far as that? I mean, is it worth it to the fans? Is it worth it to the athletes? I mean, part of the going to the Olympic Games is having the exposure. So, will anybody know who won the steeplechase 5,000? Does
anybody know anyway? You know who won?
I'm just, hey, what are your thoughts, Demetrius? The Olympics with no spectators.
So all due respect to steeplechase 5,000 people. Sorry about that. I'm sure that's a grueling event. They train their whole lives to do it, and we're over here laughing. So it's unfortunate. That's the word I've used for a year and a half. And every aspect of our lives, every cross section of individual, from farmers to television to sporting events, this thing has impacted the world. And the only word I can use is unfortunate, and that's all it is. They're going to take an L. They're going to have to take a financial L on this. And maybe you can redeem them and give it to them again in 12 years, as a do-over. I don't know. But there's nothing, you cannot put people's lives at risk. And people are still dying. We don't talk about it as much because the numbers are down. People are still dying. I got my little thing on my phone today. The state of Michigan lost 16 people yesterday. That's way down from the 125, 200 that I was getting 6 months ago. But we got vaccines. We got to keep getting vaccinated as much as and I say we loosely because everybody doesn't like the Olympics like I do. People love the Olympics and people train their whole life. It is important. It is important for a lot of reasons. It builds in children this degree of camaraderie, and there's a representing your country aspect. There's a lot of really good things about the Olympic Games. It's unfortunate. But you cannot put people's lives at risk. You can't ask people to, not for money, and that's really the unfortunate thing, right? For Tokyo, and so I think there's a way in the future to give them a do-over or something like that. I think it just becomes a TV event, and that does hurt their pocketbook for sure. And you know what? They'll air because there's a million channels. You'll be able to see who won the steeplechase 5,000 if that's even a real event. I feel like you made that up, by the way. I don't even know if that's a real event. We'll be able to find out on the internet or somewhere who won the steeplechase 5,000. I think that it's unfortunate. That's my single word. It's unfortunate, but it's the right thing to do. It's the incredibly right thing to do.
Bill, cruise ships are still into Japan. I mean, nobody stopped airplanes. Not, but I mean, this is the Olympics. You know, we was as Demetrius, you do have a point there because we used to make, there was, I don't think we've had boxing in the Olympics on as a main event on TV for quite some time. So maybe some of the other sports that we're not used to seeing, Greco-Roman wrestling, things like that, you don't have a crowd to contend with and changing stadiums or whatever. So we might see some events that we haven't seen before. Bill, your thoughts?
Well, I guess the first thing, and as a lifelong fan of dressage and the 3-day event, um, I, well, it's funny because I do watch.
Somebody's daughter made an equestrian event. Who was it? Bruce Springsteen's daughter
Nice.
is riding on the Olympic team in the
That is
equestrian.
correct. She did. But
I don't know her middle name, Bill. What?
Where did her cousin go to college? Okay. Sorry.
I believe Uppsala. Is the school with the words. But getting back to for the athletes, and you said this is still worth it. You have to understand that depending on what sport we're talking about, some of these people started training when they were 2.5 years old, right? If you're a gymnast, if you're a world-class gymnast, if you don't start doing it by 4, you probably missed your window. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Most of these people started training before they started school in many cases, right? So if they had to perform their event in a small black box, they would do it. I need you to understand this has been their lives. I mean, obviously we think about the sports we care about, the cooler events. But if you're a world-class archer, I mean, you don't have to start quite as young, obviously. You don't hit 3-year-olds, bows and arrows, I hope. But you've been doing this for hours, for years, with nobody clapping, hardly anybody watching.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to care if nobody's watching now? You are competing at the highest level in this sport that, about 14 people really care about. But the fact is you're getting to do it now in the Olympics.
Yep.
And it's a television event more than anything it is now anyway, right? Yeah. As long as it's on television, it'll be all right. Would it be great to have, stands filled with screaming people? Well, there's reasons that would not be a great idea also, but sure, that would make it more enjoyable. Yeah. But it's about the event and it's about the athletes. If the event is still there and the athletes are still there, then in my mind, you've got everything you need.
Yep.
Everything else is gravy.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
The U.S. basketball team, one of the players said that the USA basketball team would not involve itself in politics. Now, the reason why I'm asking this is because we had one of the young black women, made a protest as far as black people are concerned. If we have amateurs that are willing to take this chance and proclaim their beliefs, and you have basketball players, professional basketball players, young basketball players. I'm not even talking about the guys like LeBron and their age. I'm talking about young men that are afraid, or I don't know. Maybe they're afraid to lose their endorsements. I don't know. I don't know how that connects up. But what do you think about the USA basketball team, or at least its members saying that it would not support well, I don't know if it was necessarily Black Lives Matter, but uh, universal a universal subject. I'll put it like that. That needs to be brought attention to. Do you think that, I mean, we always talk about the responsibility of athletes. Is this part of their responsibilities as a human versus their responsibilities as a professional athlete? Do you think they should be compromised like that? What do you think, Demetrius?
Well, I think the individual at the end of the day owns their beliefs and what matters to them. While I would struggle to tell any human being what they should or shouldn't do with respect to what's going to impact their bank account and their ability to take care of their families,
Right.
this is a layered conversation, right? If we're talking about the Olympics, when you choose to be on that team, you have decided you're going to represent your country in an international event. So by extension, you're representing more than just you. So for me, if you're an Olympic athlete and you intend to make a protest relative to the Olympics, don't join the team. Refuse to join the team and state why. That's your protest. Don't accept an invitation to be on the team and then go over to another country and make some, because you represent the country then. But you don't necessarily represent everyone in the country. And that's tough. You would love it to be that way, but that is a personal thing. There's a second layer to what's okay for an amateur athlete to do versus a professional athlete. Because as a professional athlete, you're a businessman. You are the CEO of the business of fill in the blank, whatever your name is. You have stockholders called your wife and children, maybe siblings, maybe parents. You have to best represent your business. Now, at the same time, you know who you are and what are you about. Is that the way to, because your issue is probably with things happening in the United States. Is the Olympics the way to do it? No, I don't know. I think if you do it and you understand the risk, fine. I support you. I'm the first one who sits here and says, in 1968, what John Carlos and Tommy Smith did was necessary. They had to do it that way. That was literally brilliant. And we still, I'm talking about it 53 years later. We know who they are. We know why they did what they did. That was effective. Some Olympic athlete, no matter what their level of popularity is, going to Tokyo in 2 weeks, talking about Black Lives Matter. Does that land? Does that help? I need to know what your goal, what your objective is, because you could protest here. You could donate your time and or money to causes here. You could have said, I'm good enough to be on the Olympic team. I was extended an invitation, but I'm not going to accept because I don't believe this country loves me enough for me to go and represent it. That would be an effective statement. So the idea of, it all starts with the individual has a right to speak or not speak, period. It starts there. Every single individual has a right to choose whether or not they speak. Second part, if you intend to protest, what's your goal? How are you doing it? Third part is, I don't know that the Olympics now, as opposed to 1968, which is why I brought that up, is I think there are better ways to do it now. I think you could do it on social media. I think you could use your platform here every time you suit up for a game in your respective sport. I think leagues now will allow you to put Brianna or Eric Garner or George Floyd on your uniform, on your warm-ups, on your sneakers. I think there's better ways than going to Tokyo in 2 weeks to make a statement. I think. But I think you're going to get recognition if you do that way as well. At the end of the day, it's up to the individual. I'm never gonna judge, complain, or diminish any single individual's efforts to express what they believe, because it's their right to do so. That's what being an American is about. At the end of the day,
Bill.
Well, so for once, we're not going to exactly be in lockstep. So this is exciting. I have written extensively, and there's a great book by David Zirin about the athlete as activist. And who else has written about? Freeman. Michael Freeman. There's another writer who's recently written a book about athletes and activism. And we've already seen a few of the athletes have, including at the trials, expressed themselves a few different ways and gotten good amount of backlash behind it because that's what happens. Everyone says you're representing America, blah blah blah. I am not a fan of governing bodies and the IOC particularly telling people how they can and cannot express themselves. And this is not the first time. We all remember, in addition to what Tommy Smith and John Carlos did, we have to remember that Lou Alcindor chose not to participate in '68, and some others boycotted in '68. The Olympics, I'm always torn when it comes to this because I love the Olympics. I am a huge fan of the Olympics. I've watched them since '72. I remember watching, Olga Korbut, and I remember watching, was it Houston McTeer, and Edwin Moses, and Mark Spitz, and just all these tremendous, amazing athletes from '72 onward. And you talk about Carl Lewis and what a ludicrous, amazing athlete he was and how long he was able to do it. But also there is this, sort of flag waving jingoism that sometimes surrounds it as well. And it's almost, goes back to the way I feel about my military service and our military and lots of other things. I am always fueling multiple things that seem to pull in opposite directions about some of these things. I loved some of the things about being in the military, and I loved some of the people I was around, but I wasn't always wild about what it is we said we were doing and then what we actually were doing and how those things sometimes didn't align also. But the Olympics are a chance, and were originally conceived as a chance for nations that sometimes are literally at war with each other to come in a place of peace and compete. And at times I've seen wonderful, beautiful things happen where people from, nations that are supposed to be opposing each other have formed friendships. And, we all have heard the stories about Luz Long and Jesse Owens and lots of other really cool stories. But if we are truly representing this nation that keeps talking about freedom of expression and keeps talking constantly about rights, inalienable rights that are endowed by our Creator, and then to say, but put that on the shelf for this period of time. You can take it back off the shelf when you're done. Will never quite sit right with me. While I understand why some people feel that way, I will never be able to feel that way. I will never be okay with it. And so for me, if somebody paints something on their cleats or decides to raise a fist or decides to whatever thing they decide to do, and whatever sanctions come their way, I will back them against whatever sanctions, against whoever it is that's trying to silence them or shut them down. I just feel that I know it's not easy, but it's easier to say, hey, let's just all concentrate on, it's not quite shut up and dribble, but it's let's concentrate on, this awesome event. It is an awesome event. But while this awesome event is going on, we have, trans people being thrown off the tops of buildings in some countries. And we have places where, including places in America, where women cannot get safe prenatal care. People keep saying, abortion. But what they realize is a lot of these women who are going to some of these places where people always think they're all about abortion, they're getting prenatal care. They're getting contraception. And now there's places in the country where they've shut down the quote-unquote abortion clinic. And now ironically, it's actually pushing up infant mortality. This country is so damn confusing sometimes. You have pro-life people causing our infant mortality rate to be higher than some quote unquote third world countries. So I get it. I do. I get it why some people don't want there to be the marring of the Olympics by people expressing certain beliefs. But if truly it's this global meeting of the minds that the founders of the Olympics, at least in part, thought this would be, then we can't shut people down. We can't say you can't express these things because it goes against the Olympic spirit or whatever it is you say it's going against, or distracts from the pomp and circumstance, whatever it is you think it's doing. I said a lot to not say very much. That was a big old word salad. But I'll never be okay with shutting down people's right to express themselves. It'll never be okay with me.
Let's see. Demetrius, I'm going to give you this first because Bill might pull another word salad on us about this one. So.
I'll try not to. I didn't mean for that to happen.
I'm a fan of the salad, and I don't think we're that misaligned. I agree with everything you said. Yeah. I really do.
And I usually bring ranch anyway, so it's all right, Bill. Demetrius, Jerry Rice says under today's rules, he would have probably doubled. You hear what I said? Doubled his stats. What do you think? I'm saying at least 1.5. I don't know about double.
So here's the thing. He either doesn't know what his stats are because they're pretty damn impressive, bro. You know what you would have to do? You could double some other dude's stats. Doubling his stats? I think he is neglecting the idea that defensive coaches would have found better schemes. Would his stats have been better? He's obviously right. He would have. You can't touch him now. He would have been way better than he was, and he's already, by many accounts, the best to ever do it. Double is ignoring what he's done. Double is almost diminishing his own career to say that, because no, man, you did some incredible stuff. And I don't think he would have just ran wild in secondaries. They would have found ways to scheme him something short of doubling his stats. Now, so I think if he's really exaggerating the point of, wow, look what I could have done if linebackers couldn't hit me over the middle and corners couldn't grab me like they did, he's absolutely right, obviously. If we lock in on the word double, I contend he doesn't know his own stats. Because I'm not sure that's possible. And this is a compliment. The way I'm saying it sounds goofy. I'm complimenting him. And I'm wondering if he doesn't really know how good he was. Because to double what he was is otherworldly. I don't know that that's possible. So I get what he's saying in principle, in concept. I mean, he had catch 200 balls in 1 year. He put up 2,500 yards, 3,000 yards receiving. No, he wouldn't have been able to do that. That's crazy. They're not going to let you do that. They're going to triple you if they have to. They'll scheme half the field away if they have to. So he's not out of line. I just think his math. I don't know if he knows his own stats. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't realize how good he was. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, let's go to the stat man.
Right. Bill can tell me if it's even feasible.
They would have to have longer games.
Yes.
His numbers are insane. I mean, to put it in perspective, if we were talking baseball, Jerry Rice's career would be like a baseball player having 1,180 home runs in his career. His numbers are insane. They don't make any sense. People have literally gone to the Hall of Fame with 40% of his career. Exactly. I'm not even joking when I say that. 40% of Jerry Rice's career is a Hall of Fame level career. Yep. Twice his no. Why? Why would you even want that? What would you do with all that? I mean, Jerry Rice's numbers are unbelievable. They don't make any sense. Like they look wrong. It doesn't make any sense. So no, he couldn't have double. because that means to be averaging like 220 something yards and receptions per game. Right. So no, he doesn't. Either he doesn't know or he doesn't care what his actual numbers are.
But wait a minute now. Hold it now. Didn't Jerry Rice play when there was only 12 games a season?
Oh
no. Jerry's not that old. Good Lord, man.
No, he was 16. He was 16 games.
They went to 14 games in 62. How old do you think Jerry is?
Yeah. They went to 16 in what? 76? 75?
Yeah, when they added Seattle and Tampa.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember when they had Seattle and Tampa. It's just when you look at his numbers, it just seems like he played forever. It does. I mean, it's like
his concept is legit. He would have been much, much better in today's game.
Yeah.
The statement about doubling the numbers means he hadn't sat down. Somebody's gonna pull him aside the next couple of days and go, bro, look at your stats. You know what? Because I would have tripled him. I would have schemed his ass out of the game. I would have had a corner, a safety. I'd have had a defensive tackle bumping him off the line or just getting in his way. Just stand there. 300-pounder. Just stand in front of him, make him go around. You would have schemed him out.
Yeah. And what Jerry's also forgetting, the ball is thrown much more, but he played a lot with only one other receiver on the field. Right. He played the first 8 or so years of his career in a team that had a fullback on the field on over 50% of the snaps. Yeah. Well, nobody does that anymore, right? I mean, there's only I think 9 teams that even have a fullback on their roster, right? So the game is shifted. So yes, there's more balls being thrown, but they're being thrown to more people.
Yeah.
There's 4 wide receivers on the field, probably. Doing which team you're talking about, between 20 and 30 something odd percent of the game. That's 4 people who could still be catching that ball.
Yep.
And then you might still have a tight end or a running back who might be running a pattern as well. So, I mean, it's sort of like Michael Jordan, right? Guys like who are that level of great go a little bit crazy when they talk about themselves, and I understand it. Of course, when you say, well, what would you do in this era? Jordan was going to say he's going to average 50 a night. He's always going to say something outlandish and crazy.
And he believes it.
Of course he believes it.
And I think Jerry Rice believes this.
He does.
Of course he
Tom
does.
Brady believes he can play till he's 50. These people always believe they can do. And if you tell them they can't, now they're going to work out harder, right? They're going to do whatever. They're going to eat better, whatever it is, because they're they're not hooked up right. Some part of it is just broken enough that no matter how great they are, they're always looking for something to push themselves. Right. So Jerry's half thinking, I could probably get back in shape and get in the camp. This is not completely left Jerry's mind. In the back of his mind, he's wondering, maybe
I can make a roster.
Maybe I can make a roster, right? Because he's Jerry Rice. And he's a little bit crazy because everyone who gets to that level of greatness is a little crazy.
Yep. You know Tom Brady sits around and watch that draft 40, that combine 40, that flabby 40 that he ran. He just watches it for motivation. And just he goes and eats an avocado and strawberry sandwich, and then he goes out and starts throwing every day.
Right. His personalized license says 199th pick and all that stuff.
Exactly. He's going 9-9.
Right. There's something, the people who get to that level, there's something just a little bit broken. Always. They always have something that somehow inside of them is poking. It's a festival, like I said, the greatness of pettiness or the pettiness of greatness.
Jordan's Hall of Fame speech in his middle school basketball coach. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. I think if Tom Brady could wear the uniform number 199, he probably would. And at his Hall of Fame speech, Jordan calls out his middle school basketball. Was it high school? Or the JV coach, right? JV coach.
Yes, right.
Calls out the JV. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're the greatest player. What are you doing? But that's to Bill's point. There is a different degree of pettiness and motivation and, quite frankly, arrogance that these guys have. Because Jerry Rice knows he could suit up for somebody right now.
Well, now I'm glad you mentioned all of those adjectives there, Demetrius. The Cowboys are going to be on Hard Knocks.
Great segue, Jim. Great segue.
That's a great segue.
So let's talk here.
That's the Jerry Jones show. That's going to be entertaining as hell. It's all
really
Jerry
will
all
be.
day.
It's going to be must-watch TV.
Exactly. Jerry all day. On the yacht, riding horses, playing backgammon. Jerry doing everything. That's what we're going to see.
Drinking Jimmy Walker platinum label. Especially for him, 1 of 1. It's the only one in the world.
Give him a big 1 on it. Like, that's the only one. And he's going to have it right in the camera. It's going to be right up front. And 1 of 1. Brewed especially for Jer. It's not even going to be his whole name. It's going to be J-E-R. Brewed especially for Jer. Yep, that's mine. Oh my!
But Kanye West is to hip hop. Jerry Jones is to NFL ownership. I mean, where like you may love, you may hate, you may admire, you may all of the above, but you are going to pay attention.
Yep, absolutely. He's loving it.
Demetrius, I really tailored tonight's NFL discussion to you. You know that, right?
Love it. Oh yeah. I saw that. I was loving it.
Okay, so which one do you want to talk first? You want to talk about the Bucks?
Stafford.
Okay.
Stafford. You know I want number 9 first.
Okay.
So I'm gonna jump right in.
Rams. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to talk Kyle Shanahan bringing up Matthew Stafford on Sean McVay's radio show. Is this what I'm hearing correctly? Sean McVay's podcast or something like that?
Right.
And he says to the other coach, I was really bummed out or something, or frustrated or whatever.
He was frustrated when the Rams ended up with Stafford.
So where do I start? How many ways can Kyle Shanahan make it clear to Jimmy Garoppolo that he don't want him as a quarterback? Right? They traded a boatload of picks to move up and draft a rookie. And last year, they tried to get in on Tom Brady. They have told this kid in every possible way, we don't want you. Just trade him. Why are you putting him through this? You clearly have no interest in Jimmy Garoppolo being your quarterback. So then you go on the show. And the funniest part is, I agree with him. I totally agree. He should be, because Stafford's McVay is loving it. Stafford's about to make the Rams, who is in their division, a better football team, meaning potential L's for San Francisco. You still have Garoppolo. You probably had the ability to get him. You probably could have put together a package and sent to Detroit, and you could have gotten Stafford had you wanted it. Had you wanted it bad enough. But I think it's mostly that Shanahan just keeps coming up with new and creative ways to tell Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't want you to play quarterback for me. And it's kind of sad and it's kind of funny at the same time, because Garoppolo makes $1 gazillion and I don't feel bad for him at all. But it's also a statement about Matthew Stafford. And I'm happy for him. I'm not happy that he had to leave my team to start getting his props. People are recognizing now. And in this year, he's going to have a career year. He's going to take them to the playoffs, and they're going to compete for the Lombardi. And it will be due in large part because of him. So I'm happy that I was talking earlier when Nika was on that I just root for jerseys, right? I don't care. If a guy leaves the Lions, I don't care. He's an exception. He's an exception. I'm rooting for that dude. Ultimately, when a guy leaves there are guys who were on my team I didn't like when they were here. Like Ndamukong Suh, I couldn't wait for him to leave. Couldn't wait for him to leave. He didn't represent the city well. He never wanted to be here. He was targeting his league. Matthew Stafford's the exception. That's the one guy who's left the team. I'll always root for him. I think he's going to make the Rams great. I think Shanahan is going to keep finding new ways to tell Garoppolo he's a bum and he doesn't want him. And I don't blame him, because Stafford would have made San Francisco the probably favorites in the NFC if they had gotten him. So he's right. It's funny as hell. And all I can think about is, if I'm Garoppolo, I'm like, all right, man, I get it. You don't want me. I get it. You can't make yourself clear. So I think it's hilarious. Shanahan is perceived to be this I don't know. He's I don't know. I'll let Bill do this, the what Kyle Shanahan part is. I think he's right. Stafford would have made them the favorites, and he should be frustrated that he's now in the division. That's 2 L's he's going to have to deal with, largely because of Stafford.
Now, since you so proudly put Stafford winning possibly a Lombardi trophy, there's a preview game on September 26th, I think I said it was.
Yep.
The Rams against the Bucks. Are you talking a preview of the next Super Bowl?
That would be your NFC Championship game.
Right. Can't be the Super Bowl.
Can't be the Super Bowl. Yeah. That would be
That's
your.
right. He's playing with the Bucks now. I'm sorry.
Right. Right. So yeah, I am. Yes, I'm all in on the Rams, and it is 95%. I know what Matthew Stafford is. There are a lot of us, but I am someone more than these national pundits because they didn't pay attention. I know what he is. I've been saying for 2 years on my podcast, he's gonna go to the Hall of Fame. His if you look at his body of work, they're Hall of Fame numbers. All he needs is a couple of playoff wins to get the credibility. God forbid he goes to a Super Bowl, then it's a wrap. He's walking in. He's that good. And I think he's only like 30. He's still got 4 or 5 really good years left. And they're going to be really good years with the Rams. So I think the Rams improved that much. I don't know how you measure. Again, I'll leave for Bill. I'm trying to work better at leaving some stuff for Bill. If it's just me and Bill, I don't want to take it all. That's not cool. Sort of the complacency that a championship team goes through, I think that's a real thing, but I'll let Bill tell you about that. And I don't think the Rams were, the Bucks were this unbeatable force. I think if the Chiefs don't lose 2 offensive linemen, I'm not sure the Bucks are the champs right now. So I think they're beatable, and I think the Rams got that much better. They have one of the top defenses in the league. They got that much better at the most important position. All due respect to my new quarterback, Jared Goff. Matthew Stafford's just on a different level. He can do different stuff. So I like the Rams in that game. I like the Rams to be in the NFC Championship game, and if it's against the Bucks, I think the game will be in Los Angeles, and I like the Rams going to the Super Bowl. I'm calling it now.
Oh man, let's see. Bill, does Tom Brady get courtesy tickets to the Super Bowl since he won't be there? And what's your thoughts? I mean, I'm kind of like Demetrius. The handwriting has not been the handwriting on the walls, smoke signals, Morse code. I mean, how many different ways are you telling Jimmy G that hey man, you got the uniform, but it's because the owners put it on you.
You abandoned me. Love don't live here anymore.
Love don't.
Right. Well, we have officially entered the X hour. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're well after dark. Yeah, we're well after dark. Love don't live here no more.
Bill's version.
There's lots of ways that you can let someone know that your feelings have changed, right? Sometimes you'll change the locks on the door, or maybe you'll start sleeping on the couch. There's things that happen, right? It is very clear now that Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer the little spoon to Kyle Shanahan's big spoon. Things have changed. I think that he watches football. I'm thinking this is what happened. When Kyle Shanahan watches football, and he's watching Pat Mahomes do Patrick Mahomes things. He's watching Tom Brady do Tom Brady things. He's watching Aaron Rodgers do Aaron Rodgers things. And yes, you brought it up, right? Matthew Stafford do Matthew Stafford things. And then he's looking at Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's feeling QB envy, right? He's got a deep-seated case of QB envy because he's got this amazing playbook, right? And there's certain things he just knows he can't do. Oh, I love this play. Oh, can't do it.
Can't do that one.
Can't do that one. How about no, can't do that one either. Because Jimmy can't hold the safety in the middle of the field long enough, and his arm isn't quite strong enough. Damn it, I love that play.
Stafford can do that.
Right? So he's going through some of his favorites, and he can't run them. He's thinking, if I have me one of those, all these plays come back. Right? So, yes, he's got QB envy, man. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be over quickly because I think Garoppolo is going to put up a good fight. But at some point, he's going to lose that fight. And the other mitigating factor is Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played 16 games, I think, ever.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I think
that is important.
I think his record is like 12 or 13 or something is the most. So rather
than he's going 17. Remember, there's an
extra game. My point is, I mean, that was in the past. He never made it through 16. And so if you can't make it through 16, it might not be a bad bet to figure you might not make it through 7.
How's that typical ipso facto? Is that what that
is? Right. So with that having been said, at some point, whether it be through ineffectiveness or injury, he's probably going to give up some snaps. And if Trey Lance looks good, that might be all she wrote.
Yep. The minute Trey Lance looks good, that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
His key card will not work at the gate. Like,
yep.
Demetrius, which team now? I want you to pay close attention to the wording here now, okay? Which team has the most improved record this season? The Lions or the Jaguars? Now, remember, you guys won 5 games last year.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
And the Jaguars only won 1.
Right.
So if they win 5 and you win 7, but go ahead.
Okay, no, so it's a win-win for me. It doesn't matter because I know where we are in our evolution. So there's a theory where we could go 5-12 and be in a better position as an organization. I know Matt Patricia's defense was atrocious. There is so much work to do. All the good things Brad Holmes has done, there's still a lot of work to do, right? We're revamping our entire receiving core. No Galladay, no Marvin Jones. Jared Goff's our quarterback. We have to figure out what he is. So even if we're not, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. They could go anywhere from 5-12 to 9-8, honestly. And if Aaron Rodgers ends up in Denver, maybe get to 10-7. I don't know, right? That's a big part of it. Either way, it doesn't matter because we got 2 1s next year and 2 1s the year after that. I know where we are in our evolution, so it's not even important to me. Jacksonville's going to be better because mathematically, it's damn hard for them to be worse. Right? I mean, that's going to be a feat. If they're somehow they don't improve greatly, they should win 6 games. With 17 now, teams that win 2, 3, 4 games are going to be really bad football teams, and they might be there. But I think they made a massive upgrade at coach. They obviously upgraded their quarterback. They added some talented players. So Jacksonville's going to win some games. I think we're going to be a better organization, even if we don't win as many games. And I don't know if that sounds like it makes any sense. I know where we are, and I know what we're doing, and where we are in that evolution. We're going to be better, a better organization, no matter what happens on the field. Right. Because I know what the defense is.
So you're saying that Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, won't give you 6 wins. No, you won 5 last year.
If we only win 5 games, it won't be Jared Goff's fault. I'm telling you, our weakness is on the defensive side of the football. Right. So the offense is solid. The running game is solid with the addition of Jamal Williams. We added Penei Sewell with our number 1 pick, so we solidified the right side of the line. I think Jared Goff's going to be fine. I think we'll score points. We had major holes on defense, every level. Our entire starting secondary is 3 years or less. 3 years, both safeties, both corners, and our nickel. Nobody's got more than 3 years experience. And I don't even know the system Aaron Glenn's running. I think it's a modified 3-4 something, but I think we're going to get after the quarterback more. I like what we did on the defensive line, but we have holes at linebacker. I don't love a single linebacker on our roster. I don't love any of them. I like the rookie they got out of Purdue as much as anybody who was already on the roster in Barnes. I like Derek Barnes as much as anybody else. So we got work to do on defense. So if we only win 5 games, it won't be Jared Goff. It'll be the defensive side of the football. And I'm okay with that. We just have work to do. We're not there yet. We'll get there.
You agree, Bill?
Well, I'll say this about that. I think the worst possible case scenario for Jacksonville is 4 wins, and if everything goes well, they could get up to 7, which means in order to score above that, so that's an average of 5.5 wins, which is a 450% improvement, right? If we're just playing the math game, it would be almost impossible to match that, right? So I think this team could get close to 500. Obviously, you can't get to 500 anymore, but they could be a game or two below, or possibly a game above, if everything goes well. Talking about Detroit now, but I think most likely Detroit's a 6 or 7 win team, and most likely the Jaguars are about a 4-win team. So that's only a 2 win difference. So no, I think the Jaguars, as was mentioned, they have a distinct advantage in terms of being able to change their fortunes more dramatically than anybody, really. I mean, that's the advantage, if you want to use the term advantage, of being the worst team in football, is that, well, one, it's only place to go is up, pretty much, and it's easiest to go up a lot if you're terrible.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. Jacksonville has to go up. But I just thought it was a very interesting question to throw out there. Bill, I heard something today, and I'm glad it's Cribbing After Dark, because now I can change the question marks. Kareem Abdul-Drummond nickname. I have 5 letters to go to that. GTFOH. So you can figure it out. It's Cribbing After the Dark if you want to. Bill, what's your thought on this nickname?
Kareem Abdul-Drummond. The only time I would be okay with someone going by Kareem Abdul-Drummond is if we went back in time, and on a very special episode of Different Strokes, they had a special visit from like a distant cousin who was 7'2" and an unstoppable skyhook.
Right.
That's the only time I'm okay with someone being named Kareem Abdul-Drummond, is on a very special episode of Different Strokes.
2 hours.
It would be like, I'm trying to think good. It's like, it was funny when Ryan Scalabrine called himself the White Mamba, right? Because it was kind of cool and funny, and kind of there was some self-deprecation there. But I don't think there's enough self-awareness for this to work as a joke, right? I have to assume that somebody is taking this somewhat seriously, maybe, kind of. I don't know. So yeah, it's a no for me, dog.
I think not because Drummond was drafted by the Pistons and actually gave us like 7 good years. I think it's brilliant. I think people are talking about it. And why the hell is anybody talking about Andre Drummond? Right? So it worked. We're on the Sports Crib talking about Andre Drummond right now. He's selling merch and he's controlling the narrative. So now it doesn't look like the Lakers were simply disappointed and have no interest in re-signing him. It's looking like he, copying Kareem's farewell, is choosing to leave. Man, this is some okie doke. I mean, after dark okie doke. That's what this is. The reality is he's still 7 feet. He can still get you on a bad night. He can get you 12 rebounds just when he's just showing up. Because he can do one thing really, really well. But this was brilliant. This was, hey, here's a reason for you to talk about me, right? He's only 27, by the way. He's only 27 years old. You probably think he's older. He's only 27. And he did 1 year Connecticut. Like I said, he gave the Pistons, it was a money thing for the Pistons. Somebody's still going to pay him, though, because he's 27. He's 7 feet tall. He can get you 8 points, 12 rebounds, and a couple of blocks, a block or two a game. And somebody's going to give him, somebody thinks they're that player away, and they're going to give him the money. He's trying to control the narrative now.
Yep.
Like, the Lakers aren't not interested in me. I'm choosing to leave. And then Jeannie Buss did that whole Kareem thing when he came earlier this year. So he's trying to be funny. He's trying to control the narrative. And he's basically giving us a reason to talk about him on a Sports Crib. Because there's no way in hell any one of us would have brought up Andre Drummond without being prompted. So I think it was brilliant. I think it worked.
Yeah, you might be right there, but like I'm like, it's really, Demetrius, the commissioner says that they're going to use the play-in tournament next year, possibly, at least as far as he's concerned right now, unless things change. Do you think that when I say an invitation to produce a watered down product, I mean, like, if you have a team that's leading by, say, 3 or 4 games and they're playing the team in last place, we can talk about time management. If it's the Lakers or the Clippers, maybe they rest their best players, because now you don't have to worry about being in first place or second. All you got to do now is qualify.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
So
I think good thing for the NBA.
I don't think so, but I'm a Detroit Piston fan. So keep that in mind. My team is not one of the 8 or 10 teams that have a built-in advantage. It's been a top-heavy league for years. The players run this league until they get another CBA that creates some degree of competitive balance. This is always going to be a top-heavy league. The thing is, I don't think they care. I think it's working. I think they're fine with it. I think this creates some excitement for them, and it creates some TV revenue because they sell those games for more money to the networks because they're called play-in games. So it's like they can get more money for those games. Right? And at the end of the day, if it's about increasing revenue, that's Adam Silver's job. Adam Silver is dead on correct. He's doing exactly what he should be doing. His job is to generate revenue, period. And I think they believe it creates excitement. I know that when the Pistons use their first pick on Cade Cunningham and they get better and they're right in that 6, 7, 8 range, am I going to be a little more interested? I know they don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning the title because I'm going to know the top heavy teams, they're not going to beat them 4 out of 7 times. Will I care more? Maybe. So they might be right because I will watch a play-in game because I think the Pistons will be right in that mix next year. They'll be one of those teams competing for that. But real fans know if you're in the play-in game, you're probably not winning the championship. I mean, unless it's an exceptional situation like the Lakers. Because had the Lakers gotten those 2 guys back healthy, but then you would have said that's unfair. The Lakers, probably shouldn't have had to play in a play-in game. It didn't matter once they ran into the buzzsaw called the Phoenix Suns, who, they're not blowing them out. They're still competitive. So I think the league sees it as a way to generate revenue, create excitement. If they think that, they're doing it. Then nothing else matters. So fans of teams like the Detroit Pistons, they don't care. I'm not their demo. They cater to 10 teams, 5, 6 markets, and that's it. That's what matters. So I agree with you using the term watered down, but I think it's been watered down. Been watered down for a while. So I think they see it as a way to generate revenue and create excitement, so they're going for it. I'm not surprised.
Yes, Phoenix keeps messing with my tacos here, man. I'm trying to, like, what's going on here? I just need to win by 1. Doesn't matter to me. I just want my tacos. That's So anyway, let's get back to talking about basketball. Bill, what's your thoughts on this watered down product? If I'm in Charlotte, will I ever get to see LeBron play? Is he even going to get on the plane?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I've noticed. We've reached a point in the, I guess, evolution of the sport where, first of all, almost half of the league now makes the playoffs anyway, right? And their goal seems always to be, I mean, once again, we talk about maximizing, right? But this time, not so much about Maximum Magazine, but maximizing the opportunities to get eyeballs, watching your sport. And I'm guilty of it too. I really start paying attention when the playoffs begin, right? I watch basketball, here and there until the playoffs begin. Now you have my attention. So I guess I'm part of the problem that I really start paying attention when the playoffs roll around. So I guess their solution is more playoffs or play-ins or play-arounds or play over. There's just so many teams in the playoffs, right? Um, that's part of it. Also, is just so many playoff teams. The good news, if you're looking for good news, is that there's cool stories that come out of some of these things, right? We get to see emerging young superstars sometimes who we normally wouldn't see, right? Hopefully, someday soon we'll see John Morant in one of these play-in games, or he'll get a chance to put on some freak show performance and things like that. But I get exhausted. I can't imagine what it must be for the players by the sheer number of playoffs. And I'm not running, jumping, or anything. It's just, oh, wait, what night is it? Who's on? Wait, is that right? Okay, TNT tonight, then ESPN tomorrow, right? So, I'm just literally using my thumb basically, and it's exhausting. So I can only imagine what it must be like for people who have to use their entire bodies, and like I said, running, and jumping, and bumping, and everything. I'm okay with it. Just I've stopped whining about certain things. I used to whine. I wasn't quite Bob Costas bad, but I used to be one that, But I used to kind of whine about things. Oh, why do we need more of this? Why do we need more of that? You know what? People like it. I guess I'm okay with it. I was fine with it. I was also fine without it.
Right. Bill, Hall of Famer Larry Brown wins the Chuck Daly Award. You got some thoughts about Larry Brown?
Well, I remember Larry Brown as a point guard with, amongst others, the Carolina Cougars of the ABA. Got to see him play in person one time at Scope Auditorium in beautiful Norfolk, Virginia, against our hometown Virginia Squires. So he's had a long, strange career. Basketball nomad. Have whistle will travel. I mean, there's a lot of ways to describe his career. I think part of the way his career unfolded prevented people from realizing just how great a coach he was, because he never set down roots. Every couple of years it was, oh wait, where's Larry Brown now? Like, oh, he's coaching there now. You could make a nice little children's book of, where's Larry Brown coaching, and then
make a game show. Name 7 of the 9 teams Larry Brown coached. Yeah.
It's amazing how many different, and of course, I think he's still the only coach to have coached in he's coached a Pan American Games championship team. He's coached a NCAA championship team. He's coached a team 2, though they didn't win, a NBA championship, and then I'm leaving something out.
No, he won a championship with the 04 Pistons.
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you.
The going to work Pistons in 04, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Right. So he's coached 2 different teams to a championship game and won one.
Yeah.
I mean, his there's a lot of things that he's done that no one else can say they've done if you put them all together. Like I said, the only thing that sort of diffuses the recognition of his greatness is just, literally you lose track of him. Right. There's times when I literally look up and say, oh, Larry Brown's coaching in New Mexico. Who knew, right?
You knew he was always in the league, but you didn't know where on a given night. He might be with the Spurs. He might be with the Pacers. Wait, no, he's in Philly. It's like you never really knew where he was.
And he coached, a gazillion different places in college. I mean, he's coached overseas. He's coached everywhere you can coach basketball. He's coached. I mean, the only place he hasn't coached where humans have stepped is the moon.
The minute that Moon League tips off, he's going to be on the sideline.
He'll be there.
They'll pay him enough.
Oh, man. Will Derrick Rose be back with the Knicks?
Huh.
You want to take that one first, Bill?
Huh. That's a fascinator. That one's gonna. Huh. I mean, it feels like
they should try to make it work. It's numbers. It comes down to the numbers. How much money does he want? There's the answer to your question. If you tell me how much he's willing to sign for, I can answer that question with almost 100% accuracy. If he's trying to get an Andre Iguodala-esque kind of deal, like when he went to Golden State, then I think the answer is probably yes. If he's trying to get more than that, the answer is almost 100% no. Is he willing to sign for basically a glue guy contract, right? Or does he want to be paid like a, not quite star exactly, but the man next to the man? Is he trying to get paid like the man next to the man, or is he trying to get paid like a glue guy? If he is trying to get paid like the man next to the man, then no, he's definitely gone. But if he's willing to be paid like a glue guy, which you can make a decent living as a glue guy, as we pointed out, then yes, I think you hold on to him. They think they hold on to him if he's affordable. I mean, that's it. The answer is affordability.
Demetrius, I'm going to let you talk about Brown. I know you have to talk about your 206 Pistons, so I'll let you talk about Larry Brown, and then you can finish up with the Derrick.
Oh yeah, no problem. The Brown thing is special because Chuck Daly, was the Bad Boys coach, and Larry Brown coached the 04 Going to Work team. The thing is, quietly, history has lost the fact that it was actually Rick Carlisle that transitioned that team in 02 and 01, 02 and 03. And then GM Joe Dumars felt like they weren't over the hump yet. And so Larry Brown came in, and it was a February heist, robbery, whatever you want to call, where we got Rasheed Wallace for literally a bag of donuts and some decaffeinated coffee.
Yep.
Rasheed was the difference, right? So there's a lot of things that went into Larry Brown getting that title. That being said, Chauncey Billups calls Larry Brown one of the best coaches he's ever had. That's good enough for me. My feelings about Chauncey are good enough. So congratulations. And I couldn't, by the way, Bill, name 7 of the 9 teams Larry Brown had coached because I forgot he coached the Spurs and I forgot he coached the Nuggets. So, and the Knicks and the Charlotte Bobcats at the end. So I only got to 6. I think I would have got the Knicks if I'd have kept trying, but I wouldn't remember Charlotte, Denver, and I just forgot he coached the Spurs. I don't know if I was born yet. We'll see. No, but it was early. So good for Larry Brown. I'm glad that award is named after Chuck Daly, which is what I love, because just Chuck deserves probably more recognition than he ever got. Derrick Rose, Bill nailed that one. That one is, I think I'll be a little more creative. It is when he looks in the mirror, and this is what Bill talked about, guy by the guy or glue. Does he see Derrick Rose or does he see D Rose? Right? Does he see 32-year-old Derrick Rose or the former MVP of the league? That's your answer. It depends on who he sees when he looks in the mirror. Because 32-year-old Derrick Rose will say, I'll take a 1 year to go play on a team that has a chance to win a championship.
Right.
I'll take a 2 year, like he did 2 years ago with the Pistons, good amount of money, I will get playing time. And that's what the Pistons gave him. And because they did, he revived his career, and they were able to ship him off to the Knicks and get something in return. At 32, he just got to decide, what does he see in the mirror? If he's still seeing D Rose, the former MVP, I don't know if he stays in New York. If he sees Derrick Rose, 32 years old, I like playing for the Knicks, I think I have something to offer them, and I think they're going somewhere, he can probably get 2 years out of them and finish his career as a Knick. But it's all about who does he see in the mirror, to Bill's point. Does he see a number 2 in this league, or does he see a glue guy? He could be a phenomenal glue guy. If he buys into that, he could be such a great glue guy right now for somebody. So it's up to him.
Demetrius, I know that you've been peeking up at the game just like I have. And if you've noticed, Rachel Nichols is not on the sidelines. What's your thoughts on that?
I might be in the minority here, so I'm just going to disclaimer this right off the top. I read the comments.
Yep.
I did not immediately think racism. I did not. I thought someone at work who sees somebody younger and potentially better taking their job. taking their minutes. And for that, because she clearly stated she thinks Maria Taylor is good, which she obviously is. Maria Taylor is versatile. She can do multiple sports. Maria Taylor's a star. Everybody knows it, including Rachel Nichols. I think she was honest, right? Probably too honest, because what she's saying is, I hope they're not being pressured into doing this for the wrong reasons. Now, I think some of this is, I kind of fall on Rachel's side, because I think people got lost in part of what she said and didn't really hear it. I think what she was really saying was, I hope ESPN's motives are right. I hope they're doing this for the right reasons, because if they're doing it for the wrong reasons, and then she followed up by saying, Maria's good. Maria deserves everything she's getting. I just don't want her taking my minutes. that's and every athlete who's hit the age of 30 has felt this way about some dude on the team and probably expressed it. I think the comparison I have is, you guys will remember years ago, Barkley did a commercial and he said, I am not a role model, right? And I ended up doing a paper in school about that because I thought people missed the point. Because right after that, he said another line that nobody ever talks about, and it was the most important line. He said, parents should be role models. That was his point. His point was not, as an athlete, I don't want to be a role model. I don't want to act a certain way. That was not his point. His point was, your kids don't know me. Your kids have never met me. They don't know what I do after I get off the court. You should be the kids. He was asking parents to step up. And I thought it got lost. Nobody heard the second line when he said parents should be role models, because they got caught up and the media jumped all over, I am not a role model. I think this is the same thing. People are framing this narrative, and I happen to think Rachel Nichols is very good, but I can clearly say to you, Maria Taylor is a star in the making, and NBC is probably going to throw a boatload of money at her anyway, so this all might be moot. I think it was more someone at a certain point in their career seeing the new superstar and saying, I don't want that person taking my minutes. I don't think there's a racial component to it at all, actually. But that's a juicier story, and that's what people are talking about. So I don't think it is the narrative that's out there. I think her expressing that the young hot superstar is about to take my job is normal. It is what has happened a billion times. And it's unfortunate that someone can be accidentally recorded, right? Because we all want a moment where we say some shit and we think it's after dark. We can say some stuff that we think is not going to be heard. If we don't have that, because there's stuff in my house I don't want out of my house. It doesn't define me as a person, but I can have moments. I really, other than the podcast, there's stuff I say in the immediate 20 minutes after a Lions game. That's why I don't do my podcast until an hour after the Lions game, because the first 20 minutes is unairable, right? And we all do that. And we all have moments where we think we're speaking when nobody else can hear us. And that's unfortunate when those moments somehow get recorded. But I think it'll blow over like things always do, and she'll be back. She's really good. Rachel was really good at covering basketball. Maria's good at everything they put her on, so she will get hers because she deserves it. But Rachel Nichols is really good at basketball, doing basketball, and I think this can't be the thing that goes down and defines her. It shouldn't be. If people are fair and we drop a little bit of the sensitivity, I just didn't see it the way a lot of people seem to.
Bill, your thoughts?
Well, there is a racial component, but I don't think the racial component is derived from Rachel Nichols. The racial component is derived from the fact that, talk to Elle Duncan, talk to anybody who's worked there, talk to Jamel Hill, and they will tell you that, talk to Michael Smith, talk to anybody, right, who's worked there. Unfortunately, you can't talk to the late great Stuart Scott anymore. But Mike Hill said something very telling when he was asked about this, and he was told at one point that he wouldn't progress in his time at ESPN because one, he was too ghetto, and two, you're too much like Stuart Scott. We have one of those, right?
Wow.
Oh yes. If you don't follow Mike Hill on Twitter, he had some very pointed things to say about his days at ESPN. It's sort of a parable for blacks in corporate America as a whole, right? You can't be too much like this black person, right? Because we already have one of those. You can't be too much and for women, you can't be too much like this woman because we already have one of those. Well, Rachel Nichols is a person who, has benefited from many things. I mean, when your mom's Diane Sawyer and your dad's Mike Nichols, and you get a choice internship at the Washington Post to begin your career, and you're constantly moving up and up and up, and then suddenly things happen and you aren't moving up and up and up the same way. And some of those things are unfair, but some of those things are fair. And sometimes, I wanted to be a starting safety when I was in high school, and a kid who was 2 years younger than me, who later went on to be drafted by the Buffalo Bills, came along. And I was no longer a starter, right? Matt Darby was better than me. Bigger, stronger, faster, everything. I mean, he just, all the stuff you want. He was all those things that I wasn't. Maria Taylor was a two-sport athlete, right? A terrific two-sport athlete. And she's a fantastic broadcaster. And once again, I need to make it very clear, I am unable to be unbiased about Maria Taylor. I am fully in support of her for a bunch of reasons. I think she's amazing what she does. She's beautiful and smart, tough, self-aware. Like she's got it all, right? She's the full package. And I've been in the Rachel Nichols position where you lose your spot to somebody who's better and taller and more talented and easier to look at and everything, right?
Right.
But there's a racial component. It may not be coming from her, but there's very much a racial component. And we're constantly pitting minorities against each other in corporate America and women against each other in corporate America. And then wondering why they don't, quote unquote, support each other, why they aren't lifting each other up. Because I'm drowning. I can't lift you up because I am drowning. So I get why Rachel Nichols isn't being a supportive ally because she doesn't want to drown.
Exactly.
So I get all that. But it doesn't – I can excuse certain things. But if you've been in the business she's in long enough, you know that even if you think no one can hear you, there's certain things you probably shouldn't say.
Exactly.
I'll leave it at that. Maybe some things you just keep inside, right in here, where you wonder about certain things. But what I hope the takeaway is that we should not be forced to choose between two very competent women who deserve to have a career in sports media. It shouldn't have to be a competition. We shouldn't have to choose. There should be room for them and a whole bunch more. And the system is broken because we constantly have this whole sense that there's only so much room. It's a zero-sum game. Well, if this one goes up, this one has to go down. If this one gets an opportunity, this one has to be shut out. It shouldn't be that way.
Yep, agree.
Demetrius, is Jay Crowder the glue guy?
Jay Crowder is the definition of a good guy, right? He's a second-round pick. He's played for 7 teams in 12 years, which is no shame in that. The guy, he makes almost $10 million a year. Actually, he makes $9.6 million a year. And this season, he averaged 9.6 points a game. Simple math, carry 2, divide by 17. Yeah, the guy makes a lot of money, right? 9.6 points a game, and he makes almost $10 million. Now,
that's $1 million a point, huh? Something like that. Yeah.
It's something in his contract.
It's something really creepy. So he can defend, he can set screens, he plays hard on defense. He does what a Bill Carroll glue guy does. He literally is the definition of a glue guy. That's a great question. I thought, yeah, he nailed that one. That is it. You're never going to win a game because of Jay Crowder, but you're never going to lose a game because of Jay Crowder, right? He will be a variable, an input, a factor. Those are the kinds of words you use for glue guys. He was a factor. He had an effect on the game. That's what a glue guy is. So, absolutely.
Bill, should we just start calling him Elmer or what?
Cooper. You can call him Gorilla.
You gotta call him Gorilla, don't we?
Gorilla.
Any of those glues. And he's as was just pointed out once again, now I'm back in lockstep with Mr. Verges. He's not just a glue guy; he's the glue guy.
Yeah.
Like he should open up a glue guy academy, right? So guys can learn how to master the art of being a glue guy. And I would say to one Derrick Rose, sign up, right? Go there and learn the ways of the glue guy. Because one, you can stay around the league a few years longer than you probably would otherwise. And two, it'll help you to not feel that sting, right?
Yeah.
That you sometimes feel when someone says, hey, you're coming off the bench, or hey, you're doing this, or hey, you're doing that, as opposed to being, if not the guy, then the man next to the man. Because, once again, I've been watching him, since he was probably 14, 15 years old. And, all the things we say about a guy like Westbrook, he was that, but more, what's the word? Attractive? No, I mean I'm trying to think. But there was a grace, a gracefulness, I guess, that he had in his game, even though it was built somewhat similarly to the game of a guy like Westbrook, but just it seemed to be more graceful, more poetic almost in the way he played, even though it was built around explosiveness and just beating people to spots and all that stuff. And for him to manage to retool his game and manage to still be a very good player without being the most explosive thing we've seen in a decade is a testament to his basketball IQ and his determination.
Yeah.
But the next step would be to truly, study with the Jedi Master, Jay Crowder, and truly learn the way of the glue guy.
And because the thing about glue guys is there's no expectation. So everything you do is butter. Everything you do is butter. You always look good when you do something, and nobody gives a damn if you don't. So that's the beauty of being a glue guy. And you make $10 million doing it.
Somewhere Tyshawn Prince is saying, yes, hallelujah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right about that. Demetrius, is Giannis right that it means more winning a championship with the Bucks, or is that just an old school idea?
It's actually both. He's right, but it is an old school idea. It's that idea of playing with one team your whole career, and think about it though. We talked about the quarterback that went from Philly to Indianapolis. What's his name again? Sorry.
Earth.
Yes. Carson Wentz. Yeah. So we talked about playing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania versus playing in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's the same thing. Giannis plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. For those of you who don't know, Milwaukee is in Wisconsin. I'm very, very familiar with the city. You win a title in Milwaukee, you're set. They name a building after you. They name streets after you. Right? It's easy. I mean, you're set. You don't ever pay for a meal again. People say your name with reverence. One title, that's it. One title in Milwaukee is like 5 in New York or LA, or 4, 3-peat. If Giannis, especially with the knee, because that's just going to add to the legacy. That's going to make it a Willis Reed type of. He did it. He carried them, and it doesn't look good tonight. But he carried them to a championship on a bum knee, and he's already signed. He's committed. He said all the right stuff. I want to stay here. I want to win here. He didn't have a TV show and say I'm taking my talents anywhere else. He said I'm doing it here. So. Yeah, it would mean a lot more to Giannis. It will mean a ton to everybody in Wisconsin. They haven't won in decades. If they somehow pull this off, especially after what looks like they're going to be down 2-0, if they were to pull this off, he's a wrap. He can be done. He doesn't ever have to do anything else. He is solid. There'll be a statue outside the building. There'll be streets and buildings named after him. He'll be set for life in Milwaukee. Absolutely. So he's right. And it's both of those things. It is an old school mentality. Play for one team, don't run around, chase championships. And I'm old. I'm not as old as you two, but I'm older. I'm old enough to appreciate the idea of stay with one team your whole career. I talk about certain Lions, Barry Sanders and Herman Moore, and I talk about Trammell and Whitaker, old Tigers who played their whole careers with my team, Steve Yzerman in hockey. And there are guys in every sport that I can talk about in that way. Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, right? So there's something to that still matters to some people. And I think for Giannis, that's a big deal. And it would certainly be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Just kind of a segue here, Demetrius, being a Detroit guy. Do you know where Emmanuel Stewart Street is?
Where the Kronk Gym is, or the street they named after him?
Yeah.
Yes. I know exactly where that is. I know how to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will Giannis's street be as long as Emmanuel Stewart,
I don't know.
Will it run parallel to Martin Luther King Boulevard?
Right, that's more likely. Emmanuel is a legend of like a different level kind of legend in the city of Detroit. That he might have to win 2 titles to get to that. Emmanuel Stewart is a god in Detroit. I mean, he saved lives of kids, and it's a whole different thing.
Quiet as kept, he saved mine too. So
yeah, Manny's a different kind of deal. In Detroit, Manny's a different kind of deal. So yeah, it'll be a nice road. It'll be a nice street in Milwaukee. It's going to be in the hood for sure. Giannis Boulevard is going to be in a certain community.
Anticupo Boulevard. Okay.
Exactly. Anticupo Boulevard is going to be in a certain community for sure. But that's okay. That's all right. We more appreciate it.
What's your thoughts on Giannis, Bill? See, this is the stuff that keeps us going overtime, right?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan, and I love his enthusiasm. I love that he wants to be in this quote unquote small market, and that he wants to win there, and that he's resisted, at least thus far, the siren song of, calling a bunch of guys and saying, hey, let's all try to win one in Miami or Boston or wherever it is, right? He's determined to get this thing done for the people that drafted him. And obviously this year looked like, I predicted preseason they would win it all this year. And it looks like that might not play out, but it's clear how close they are. I still think that they're the class of the East, and they could be one player away, and not a great player. They don't need a superstar. They are their Jay Crowder away from hoisting a title, I think, and obviously Giannis staying healthy. But this is a really good team, and though they don't have that second star that people always talk about, or that third star in some cases that some teams have, they don't have that. They don't have that twins, that triplets, that whatever it is, that, they don't have 3 first ballot Hall of Famer type of like some teams have. They don't have that. But I think that they can win it without that. They can win it all without that. I think that that guy who can hit the occasional 3, but plays tough defense and is a really good passer and sets screens like a maniac. And like I said, those guys that we look at on these championship teams, what Iguodala did for Golden State, but the glue guys, right? They need one more really effective glue guy, and I think that and a healthy Giannis could be enough for them to win it all. And yeah, I'd love to see that happen. The last time they won it all, since it's a chance to drag Norfolk State back into the discussion. But the last time they won it all, they had, of course, young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They had old Oscar Robertson, but the number 3 guy, the man next to the man next to the man, was Bobby Dandridge, of course, from Norfolk State University, who was a terrific all-around basketball player. But yes, I would love to see Milwaukee win it all.
By the way, they're not dead yet. And they're not dead tonight yet either. I keep glancing up because it's actually looks like it's a pretty good game. I think you make a great point though about Giannis, and there's one player, and it's a guy who is a top-notch glue guy or a guy just above a glue guy, right? And those guys are out there. and those guys can be had.
Yep.
Or to your point, a healthy Giannis. So I like where they are. And I like him a lot too. I'm a big fan, like you said.
Well, my tacos aren't looking too well, but anyway, let's see. There's no need to ask the holiday question, but I will ask this one. Can the Suns keep winning depending on CP3 to be their leading scorer? Demetrius?
Can they? Maybe. I don't think they want to. I don't think that's the best way. I'll put it that way. I don't think that's the best way. That's not what you want him to do. You shouldn't expect his body, right? You don't want his body to do that. You want him to do something different. You need Devin Booker, because if that scenario plays out, Devin Booker's not being that dude. Bill and I have already anointed him. We've said he's that dude. If what you're talking about happens, Devin Booker's not playing the best version of Devin Booker basketball. That's a formula for you losing. So I think your question was phrased, can they? I'm going to go with maybe. That's the best I've got. I don't think it's their best chance. I think if that happens in the remaining games, Milwaukee finds a way back in. And I think Milwaukee goes home, plays really well. This one's not over. There's still work to do here. But Milwaukee plays really well in game 3, probably gets a comfortable win. And then game 4 becomes the series. Because obviously if it goes 3-1, it's over. If Milwaukee ties it at 2, they probably have momentum. And what you're talking about is, I don't think his role is much more leadership on the floor, executing strategy, and setting up other players. Can he do it? Sure. He's still Chris Paul, and I'm one of his biggest fans. But Milwaukee's not going to go down 20 like they did in game 1. That's not going to happen again. This game is obviously they're fighting literally till the end. They were down 11 a few minutes ago. Now it's a 6-point game. And even if they lose tonight, nothing has happened. Series doesn't start until somebody wins on the road. That's when the series turns. So if they win tonight, there's nothing that precludes Milwaukee from going home, winning both games, and tying this at 2. This is the finals. These are probably the 2 best teams. There's not some huge gap. If anybody who thinks Phoenix is about to roll to a sweep doesn't watch a lot of basketball. And so going back to your question, if Chris Paul leads them in scoring, I don't love their chances. I don't think that's their best formula.
Bill, what do you think?
Well, okay, so Chris Paul is a 6'1", 34-year-old guard? Okay, so he's a 6'1", 34-year-old guard. As much, and once again, I've watched a lot of guards in my day, and he's one of the best, right? Not quite Isaiah, not quite Magic, but he's on that short list of the greatest point guards of the modern era, certainly. I never got to see Kuzi play except on tape. But of the guys I've gotten to see with my actual eyes, he's right there. He's in that discussion of the best of the best. I love Steve Nash, but I would take him over Steve Nash. He's a special player. However, first of all, if he's leading your team in scoring, that not only does that mean that something's going on with Devin Booker, it also means what the heck is going on with the other team's defense? How are you letting Chris Paul?
Right.
What the heck? I mean, it's no longer Chris Paul's no longer just blowing past people. Like that's not this version of Chris Paul. So you should not be letting that happen. So yes, a lot of weird things would have to happen for him to continue to keep scoring like that. That's the first thing. Because he doesn't want to score like that. That's not what Chris Paul wants to be doing. He doesn't want to score 40 points anymore. That's no longer something he even really aspires to do. 40 points is something he did when he had to on teams where no one could score.
Exactly.
Right? That's what he was doing. He's on a team where other people could score. So no, it should not happen.
Well, gentlemen, once again, we've come to the end of another great show. I would have had a great guest. I'm going to try to get some more on. we didn't have any token white guys tonight, but hopefully we'll get at least one next week.
Yep.
So, Mr. Hayes, we knew was going to be away today, but it happens. Mr. Daly, I'm sure once soccer season is over with, he'll be back. And by then, who knows? We might really know something more about the Aaron Rodgers situation. But I think the deadline now is August, isn't it? I think something August. What is it? August 13th or something that the rosters have to be set or something. I forget. But I think that's the next date.
Well,
But
the main thing is it means he has to give back. Was it $9 million in bonuses or something? There's a bonus that kicks in for him. I guess it's probably a roster bonus, right?
Yeah, it's a roster
right,
bonus.
Right. So that's the real thing is like, is he going to be willing to walk away from that roster bonus? Because that will tell you a lot. If a man says, "I'm going to turn down this big giant wad of cash for literally showing up to a facility," that will tell you everything you need to know about just how dug in he is. And like I said, at that point, we'll really know if the die is cast.
Bill, you want to give us your final thoughts? We're gonna let Dimitri go last this time.
Okay,
That's cool.
Sure. I'm going to start with some things that are truly historical, in my mind, at least are truly historical. One of which is that the Olympics, as we know, are upon us. And for the first time in 109 years, the same human being, the same person will be representing the United States Olympic track team in both the high and the long jump. And so Javon Harrison becomes the first American since Jim Brightpath Thorpe to be the person who's going to represent our country in both the high and long jump. That's how difficult and how rare it is to be that good at both things. There have been lots of people who've been the long jump and triple jump person.
Yep.
There may have been, maybe Mike Conley. I have to go back and check. I think Mike Conley, in fact, medaled in both. And there's a few others, I think, who have done it. But it is incredibly difficult. They're two very different activities. So they're both explosive and jumping or whatever, but the techniques are radically different. I don't know if you ever tried to do both. I did try long jumping when I was trying to try to find somebody to contribute to my high school track team. And unfortunately, it found out that my best event was the 800 meters, which I don't wish on anybody. But it is techniques involved in both, but you are literally exploding. You're sprinting basically, and then you convert your sprinting, momentum into a power step basically, and then explode forward. Right when you're long jumping, when you're high jumping, you're making this sort of somewhat gentle J turn. You're not accelerating very much. There's a little acceleration, and then you're converting your linear momentum into vertical lift, but you're doing it while also turning and angling your body. High jumping is much harder than it looks. I've also tried that. That did not go well, and I have great respect for him who can do either of the two at a high level. Him doing both at a super high level is beyond amazing. I have two more quick ones. So these are two shared birthdays of two of the greatest Negro Leaguers of all time. One who's in the Hall of Fame, one is not. So on the 7th of July of 1902 and the 7th of July of 1906, two truly amazing human beings were born. Theodore Roosevelt, double duty Ratcliffe, on the 7th of July, 1902. And also, one Leroy Robert Satchel Paige was born on July the 7th of 1906. And I would urge anyone who's ever had the chance
to read books, watch documentaries, anything about either of those two individuals. Because not only were they great baseball players, both of them were amazing storytellers. And I got a chance actually to sit and talk with Double Duty Ratcliffe, with Theodore Roosevelt Ratcliffe, who, first of all, has an opinion on everything. He was not shy about sharing them. Also, quite an eye for the ladies for a man who was well into his 90s when I met him. And at one point, he was the second oldest living Negro leaguer. There was only one longer-lived Negro leaguer that we know of. Double Duty was 103 when he passed. But an amazing baseball man. And amongst the things that tie he and Satchel together was at a game where Damon Runyon was in attendance, which is where the nickname Double Duty Ratcliffe comes from. Damon Runyon gave him the nickname. He caught Satchel and then and hit a home run. Ted, Double Duty Ratcliffe. Then in the second half of the doubleheader, he threw a 5-hit shutout. Think about what it takes to catch a game, right? Hit a home run in the game that you catch. Throw off the gear, right? I don't know, have a drink. I don't know what you do, smoke a cigar, whatever it is you do between the two, especially in those days, in 1932. Get your arm limbered up, go out and throw 9 innings, right? A complete game, 5-hit shutout. Ted Williams said he was one of the best ball players he ever laid eyes on. And I'm going to go ahead and believe the kid, the splendid splinter, Teddy Ballgame. If he's impressed by somebody, that person must be impressive. I was, like I said, very blessed and very lucky. I never got a chance to meet Satchel, but I did get a chance to meet and interview Double Duty Ratcliffe. And one, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And two, like I said, I cannot strongly urge you enough. There's only a couple of good books about Ted, but there are a couple of good books. One's a children's book, and there's one like actual adult biography. It's definitely worth reading. And there's at least one documentary. It's not just about Double Duty, but it's a bunch of the guys who are still alive. There's somebody got smart and went and talked to, and it's definitely worth seeing as well. I can't remember what it's called now. It's on Netflix though. But amazing people, and I just want to celebrate those individuals.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. Always appreciate the facts, and we know, I'm going to compile a list of middle names here, so I commend you, that mind of yours being,
Impressive.
so old,
Impressive.
very impressive for an old guy. Demetrius, give us some words of wisdom before we get off there, man.
Well, you guys know what I like doing, and the great topic, Bill. And I urge anyone, if you ever find yourself, I'm not sure why you would, in Kansas City, Missouri, you need to carve out 4 or 5 hours or whatever you can spare. It will be well worth it. The Negro League Baseball Museum is amazing. Amazing. I have to be honest, I was irresponsible, canceled an entire day of work. I was going to go for an hour or two, and I just called them and said, yeah, I'm not making it today. I'm not making it. Yep. It's worth it. But I like to do my recognition thing. And so I'm going to do it in a little game style. ESPN likes to start off their 30 for 30s. They preview them with their commercials and they say, what if I told you, right? So I'm going to talk tennis. So what if I told you that this tennis player was second in career earnings? What if I told you this tennis player won 10 Grand Slams in singles, 14 Grand Slams in doubles, 4 Olympic gold medals? What if I told you that with all that accomplishment, she's only the second best player in her own family?
Yep.
What if I told you her little sister is first place in earnings and she doesn't even have half of what her sister has? So I've always been compelled with this. How much would we recognize Venus if there was no Serena? Right. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Serena. I continue to say, all disclaimers out the window. Serena Williams is the greatest professional athlete of all time. Any sport, male, female, I don't care. Tom Brady, even the guy over my shoulder. When you do the work, when you do the diligence, Serena Williams is the greatest professional athlete of all time, period. But Venus was pretty damn great. And it's tough because you can't, she doesn't get the acknowledgement. 10 Grand Slams as a singles player, 14 as a doubles, that is an amazing career. She's second in all-time earnings. But Serena's first and doubled her, right? So it's always like fascinated me because Venus Williams is a phenomenal tennis player. She is great. She's probably in the conversation of top 10, maybe top 5. Chris Everett, Billie Jean, Martina. There's some Steffi Graf. There's some great female tennis players. She's in top 10. I don't feel uncomfortable saying that.
Yeah, top 10.
Top 10. I don't feel uncomfortable. It's so odd that you don't know what to do with her because of Serena. It's hard. What do you do? Because I just think there's no question Serena's the greatest ever. I've just said that. And it's in women easy, tennis easy. I think she's in the conversation as the greatest professional athlete of all time. Sure. And we can do a whole sports crib on tell me who's better. I would challenge someone to tell me who's better. Who's better at what they did? I don't care. Team sport, individual sport, not Tiger Woods, not Jack Nicklaus. She's 20 plus years in, and injury and babies are the only thing that are stopping her right now. Right? Nobody's beating her. Nobody. When she's healthy, she wins. Period. If she sustains an injury or if she's pregnant. And I think she won a Grand Slam 4 months pregnant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Venus is remarkable, and I think it's unfortunate that she will probably never be held in the regard she should. And it's not a bad thing because she will look at you and say, I love my sister very much, and I'm happy with my career. There's nothing there. And I'm not even talking from an animosity side. Serena deserves it. I think Venus deserves more. And I think it's just hard to do because you can't talk about her without thinking about her sister. Yeah. So, but 21 years ago today, she won her first Grand Slam at Wimbledon. And I saw a clip earlier, and I thought, my first thought was, damn, Serena's great. Venus. Why can't I just think about Venus? And then I looked up her numbers and thought, oh my God, she deserves to be talked about without mentioning her sister. And that's all due respect to her sister. So I want to recognize Venus Williams for being the absolute great that she is. And 21 years ago today, she won her first Grand Slam. It was pretty awesome.
Right. She's not Tommy Aaron. She's not Eddie Payton.
Exactly. That's great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and, what do we say? Timing is everything, right? If Serena's the older sister and Venus is the younger sister, does it work out differently? If there's a bigger gap in age between the two of them, where she gets to be dominant longer, do we think of them differently? Like there's all these things, as you said, what if? I told you. But yes, I think the thing that we should always remember about her is that as rough as some of the stuff has been on Serena, it was worse for Venus,
Absolutely.
Right? Because one, she's the oldest, she's the first, and she's even taller, right? I mean, they're both very, physically imposing women, but Venus is 6'1" and change, I think.
Yeah.
So there was this pushback against her initially. I mean, not just because beads in her hair and whatever, because people felt like she wasn't playing women's tennis the way women play tennis, right? I mean, there were people saying things like that when she first.
She took bullets for Serena. That helped. She definitely was out in front taking some of those bullets. And you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's such a subtle thing that Bill just said, but it's huge. She wasn't playing women's tennis the way women had played tennis. That's trailblazing. That's a huge statement Bill just made. And I think that's a big deal. She took a lot, and she took those bullets. And I think some of those bullets deflected off her and never hit Serena. And Serena might be one of the first people who would sit down and tell you, oh, hell yes, she did. And it absolutely helped me. So I love them both. But I want to talk about Venus. Venus was awesome.
Well, since you guys ended the sports crib on such a serious note, next week during Cribbing After Dark, we will be talking about the evolution of women's track uniforms.
Yes.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
am a tremendous fan of women's track and field for a variety of reasons, but that is part of it. Yes.
That is not far down the list, probably.
All right, guys.
Absolutely.
We've hit all the bases. Cribbing
Yep.
after dark, the whole 9 yards. So let's get out of here, man. I'll see you guys next week, man.
All right, fellas.
Sure.
All right. Take it easy.
Take it easy.
To our audience, hope you had as much fun as we did. If you didn't, hey, next time smoke a blunt. What the hell?
Exactly.
All right.
Do what you got to do.
Have a good weekend, fellas.
All right.
See you next
All right,
week.
you too.
Good night.